Із Америки приїхав наш надійний побратим, познайомтеся із ним. В росіян зі сраки дим. Ла-ла-ла-ла. За ракету на паскудних ворогів випускає весь наш гнів. Робить все без зайвих слів. Ла-ла-ла-ла. Московити зі снарядами гребуться на складах, коли робить свій бабах. Наганяє лютий страх. Ла-ла-ла-ла. Розробляють окупанти свої плани у штабах, але чути знов бабах. Лупить нечисть по зубах. Ла-ла-ла-ла-ла. Окупанти лиш заповнили склади своїм пальним, як вітається із ним. Підіймає чорний дим. Ла-ла-ла-ла. Не любити московитів і довести нелюбов помагає знов і знов. Найточніший орколов. Ла-ла-ла-ла. 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 Ла-ла-ла-ла.
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні. У нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів. Робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить. Хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар? Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ. Тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Hello everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, everybody. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 186 of the stream and another night of fundraising to help those in Ukraine.
And of course, it is a Sunday night, which means that we're running a fundraiser in support of Ukraine, and we have found a brand new nonprofit to support, which has been in Ukraine and has been providing not only help for the Ukrainians, but help for millions of children for over 103 years. Save the Children is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 1919, and over the past 103 years, they have been involved in saving hundreds of thousands of children from certain death and injury. Even including in the Second World War, they were the first to arrive at the concentration camps and help out those poor children that had been suffering for years under Nazi German reign. And today, even now in Ukraine, they have helped hundreds of thousands of children that have been crossing the border with their mothers in all of the countries that are bordering Ukraine, except for Belarus and Russia, as far as I know, in making sure that they are safe, they will not be preyed upon by predators and others, and that they will have a safe home to go to. It is an incredible nonprofit organization. I actually have been looking at this one for a couple of days, and I usually don't announce what our nonprofit will be before the stream, but this one was largely in my crosshairs for about the past 3 days, and I hope that we're able to raise massive amounts of support for them tonight, because if any nonprofit is doing something incredible, this one is literally saving children. And so your donation, regardless how large it is literally going towards saving Ukrainian kids. And there could be no better goal than ensuring that the next generation of Ukrainians will be alive and well, so that way they can take the reins from the old and bring in the new. As usual, the circle of life always goes on. And so with that, we're now going to be moving into the news in Moscow, because we've gotten a lot of suggestions today that the Russians are on the brink. Now, I would like to start off with a bit of news that I saw for a second today. It was corroborated, but when I went back to go find the news segment to go and throw on here, I could not find it. The Russian government is going bankrupt right now. Even through foreign lending, which is the way a lot of countries pay for wars, they're not even able to pay enough for that. And so there has been news today, unfortunately I do not have a link for it, that the Russians have had to cut literally every single roadworks project around the Russian Federation, along with a lot of other infrastructure plans, because they have run out of money for it. This is a massive sign. When you start cutting out infrastructure upkeep and maintenance out of your budget, that means that you're almost out of money. That is one of the basic necessities that a modern government provides for these days, and considering that the Russians can't even do that now, it lets us know that they are certainly on death's doorstep in terms of the administrative sides of things in the Russian government. Not only that, but today we've seen the rhetoric get far more extreme than it's ever been before by pretty much everyone in Russia that we could find, and also we saw something else that was really interesting. So, just as a quick explanation, y'all may know Moscow City in the center, you know, that's where Red Square is and all that kind of stuff, but there's another part of Moscow called, I believe, Moscow City, if I'm correct. It's the Special Financial District, and if I pull up Moscow Financial District, there it was right there, Financial District, we can go to it real quick, and this right here, the Moscow International Business Center, so now we got that, let's type that in, Moscow International Business Center. I think it's, nope, that's the airport. Anyways, I'll just show you all the pictures. So, this is where all of Russia's money lies, is it within the Moscow International Business Center. It's kind of a special economic zone, much like the Chinese operate out of Shanghai, Hong Kong, and others, where Russian businessmen can operate about with really no regulations whatsoever, so that way they can reap the maximum amount of profits and hopefully bring in enough money for the government officials in Russia to live comfortably as well. Now, these guys are the only people in Russia that you'll see driving around in Ferraris. They're, of course, the oligarchs as well, with their yachts, which everyone knows about. And today we saw that a couple of these people, which I call yuppies, were arrested today. These influential men, dressed up like well-to-do people, were literally arrested in a large group today for an unauthorized meeting. So here's the video of that happening. And honestly, this is shocking to see that the Russian government is cracking down on what are clearly the, I guess you could say, upper-class movers and shakers of Russia that would most likely be aligned with the government. We can see them all being ferried off. And that is just insane. Here's another video of them arresting more of, I guess, there's really no other way for me to call them, the upper-class Russians in Moscow. Once again, these people are the people who dwell within the Moscow Financial District. You see right there. And they are the ones who actually make Russia their money. And considering that they're now being arrested, we are not really sure what the charges they're being arrested are for. This is showing a sign that apparently the Russians are so scared of uprisings at this point that even these guys, the people who literally keep Russia going pretty much economically, are now being arrested when they congregate in somewhat small groups. This is honestly a shocker to me, especially considering that we all know what these people do and how important they are to the Russian government, and to see that they're cracking down on them like this. Not only that, but the rhetoric that the Russians have been spewing today has completely flipped from yesterday. And of course, just to give a quick little summary, all of us know about how the Russians have always been saying they're going into Ukraine to denazify it. It's full of Nazis, and we just want to get rid of the Nazis. And we also want to make sure that all of the Russian-speaking people within Ukraine are united with Mother Russia and that they stay safe. And today I've seen two separate instances, just from today, of, I guess you could say, leading Russians, or at least leading Russian speakers, speaking about erasing Ukrainian culture or committing genocide against the Ukrainians. We will actually start off with the first one and just listen to it about this guy literally declaring genocide. And it also seems, at least from what he's saying, he's holding the skull of a dead Azov soldier. And so here's the video.
Да, пусть горит в аду. Ему не повезло, из его черепа сделают кубок, возможно. Но наша война, она не просто война с людьми из крови и плоти. Наша война — это война с идеей Украины как антирусского государства. Почему не может быть никакого примирения? Украина должна быть деукраинизирована. Русские земли Малороссии должны быть...
There's the key words right there. We must Ukrainianize Ukraine. He's literally calling for the Ukrainians to be killed off and replaced with Russians, much like they would have done during the Holodomor in the 30s, much like they've done throughout all of history. The Russians and their true intentions come to the surface when things get tough. They don't want Ukrainians around at all. They want to go in there and deliberately kill them off, and we've seen them already do this in the Bucha Hostomel European area when they controlled an area full of Ukrainians for about a month worth of time. They killed thousands of people in the streets. And we can see this guy here going on with that rhetoric just like it's a normal day at the office, a normal day in Russia. And look how openly he says this. He's at some kind of club, probably in front of hundreds of people, and doing something this insane. This makes me think that it may be a time for the United States to start getting a little bit heavy-handed with the talk, now seeing that if Russians do take any kind of ground, you can almost ensure that there will be some kind of genocides or reprisals against the local Ukrainians that are still there.
Мы воюем не с людьми, мы воюем с идеей. Именно поэтому в этом трагедия украинских солдат, что мы воюем с идеей, поэтому нам насрать, сколько их надо убить и как их надо убить. Если бы мы воевали с людьми, мы могли бы с ними помириться, там сказать, да, братан, ну так получилось, короче, война. А мы воюем с идеей, поэтому все носители этой идеи должны быть уничтожены, так же, как вот этот чувачок, бедный Йорик, да, вот он, наверное, тоже хотел не валяться под Азовсталью, но просто выбрал не ту сторону. Это точно не мирняк? Нет, точно не мирняк, мы сами их ёбнули бы.
Как думаешь, он понял, что такое русский мир?
Я думаю, да, он понял, что такое русский мир.
This is just sickening. There's really not a lot for me to add to this. The guy is literally calling for outright genocide. And I actually saw someone say, why am I showing this in the live chat? And the reason why I show this is because it takes actually seeing it to know what the Russians are really about. And this is a problem that people had in the Second World War, is that the United States knew good and well about the concentration camps almost at the very outset of their inception and their actual use, but we never really wanted to talk about or show any proof of the realities of what Nazi Germany was really about. And so a lot of people, both in Germany and in the Allied countries like the United States, went completely ignorant of the concentration camps until the U.S. Army actually rolled up onto them and saw them for themselves. And so that's why I show this kind of stuff, is because I want y'all to know what the Russians are really about. And sometimes you have to listen to the other side unfiltered to actually know what they're saying. And this right here is on the lines of the final solution or anything like that. It's the sickest thing I've ever seen. And the United States, honestly, at this point, with this kind of sick stuff being said, it is the duty of not only the United States, but the entirety of the United Nations to step in and stop this kind of stuff, because they've made it clear at this point that it's purely about genocide against Ukrainians. Not only that, but another guy took a different take on it. Apparently, he's some kind of a large director in Russia, and he demands that Ukrainian culture be wiped off the face of the earth, and that Ukrainian people be de-Ukrainized. So here's the video of him saying that in front of a massive board of teachers that are nodding their heads in agreement. So here's the video of that. I think y'all be able to see, no, y'all won't be able to see the captions, so I'm going to have to read them off to y'all, at least the bottom line. The Ukrainian language has become the image of Russophobia. And understand me, right? That is, the phrases that we hear in Ukrainian transcription and pronunciation, they are for us and for the world in principle and for themselves. I don't even know what the hell that means. I don't know what he was actually getting at there. Are the formation of hatred for Russia. Therefore, I would be very scared if the subjects were taught in Ukrainian. This is a disaster. And you can see all the teachers agreeing with this guy. This is absolutely a mine planted in all future history. And so now this guy is saying Ukrainian language and culture is just anti-Russian. Therefore, it ought to be wiped off the face of the earth. And the Russians aren't just going with this, and a lot of Russians, from what y'all can see, are agreeing with it. They even crack jokes when looking at a man holding the skull of a dead Azov soldier that was from the Azovstal. Or he could have even been from Olenivka. We don't even know where that skull came from. And now this guy is talking about, well, I don't really want to commit genocide on the Ukrainians, but I want to commit genocide against their culture and wipe it out because it's anti-Russian. They should be Russians. That is exactly what they did in the 30s. That's what they did in the 1800s, the 1700s. That's what they've done ever since the Russians knew that the Ukrainians existed. They have been constantly trying to wipe their culture off the face of the earth by Russifying them. Especially in the 1930s. I actually showed you all a documentary about about several days ago at this point, showing some Ukrainians that actually survived through the 30s, and how the Russians, if they heard that someone believed themselves to be Ukrainian, they would ship them off to Kazakhstan or they would kill them. And it looks like the Russians want to do the exact same thing to the Ukrainians today that they were doing almost 80 and 90 years ago, and even beyond that. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into our next bit of news from Moscow, which is kind of nice. We actually got an additional video of the deputy's car being set ablaze from yesterday, and this is a bit of a longer film that actually shows us the lead up to that attack. So, here's the video. So when you see the BMW over there, we can see a woman. Now, here's something interesting. We actually saw the person who did this on film. We see them walk up to the side of the car. It looks like a lady. She then stands near the wheel. Apparently lights some kind of Molotov. It goes up in a ball of flame. And then she walks off. The car begins to burn. And then she even sets the rear tire on fire as well. Make sure it's good and well started. And then she walks off. And now the car is burning. Now, that wasn't a high-tech, really organized partisan attack. It was just a one-off person. But still, this does show a sign that Russian officials aren't even safe inside of Moscow City itself. People are actually going to start lashing out and attacking them within pretty much their own castle.
Слава Украине нашей, прекрасно. Просто удивительно. Да, да.
Вот это понимаешь, а? Снимай его.
Снимайте, да. Азов сила, снимайте.
Он
Вот
вам
меня
сейчас
на
наговорит
телефон.
там на статью, вы его
Давай.
поменьше слушайте.
Ага, ой, наговорит как много, просто много наговорит.
And with that, that's the end of the video. I think that's actually the old lady right there that set the fire onto the car. And then we don't know the motives. Of course, she is pro-Ukrainian. We heard her say Slava Ukraini, so we know that that's at least part of the motivation there. But it's good to see that even Russians, apparently, are taking the initiative and trying to show the Russian government that what they're doing these days is not really approved anymore by anyone in the public or around the world. And so with that, we're now moving on to our final bit of news from Moscow, far in the north of the city, where we can see that the Russian babushkas have something to say about the war as well. Now, these grandmothers have been saying stuff for quite a while in this war, and I've never really included it, but they disappeared off the face of the earth from what I could tell for about the past 2 months. But now that the war is starting to go terribly, and we kind of see that with the Russian crackdowns on gatherings of even the wealthier people in Russia that are probably tied with the government, among other things, we now see that the angry babushkas have now made an appearance again. And so y'all won't be able to see the subtitles, but I will read them off to y'all so that way y'all know what these sad, sad women have to say. So with that, here's the video. We, Putin's detachments, gathered today for an emergency meeting, because they're making differences, you know, to protest against the Baltic countries. Led by this man who wants to set up concentration camps for Russian people. That's really rich coming from a country that literally just said they want to genocide the Ukrainians. How long will this continue? Russian people liberated the entire war. Okay. I'm going to have to call on you, Matthew, real quick, because how in the world do you liberate a war?
Yeah, that's not possible. They're just talking out of their rear ends again.
Yeah, I don't even think they know what that means. Like, how in the world do you liberate a war? You can liberate countries, you can't liberate wars. That already shows you
they've heard that rhetoric over and over, and they're just repeating what they've heard, basically.
Yeah, they're kind of like AI in that way. You know, they're just piecing together the words they've heard a lot, and so now they're going, they've liberated the war. Anyways, we're going to let the video continue. They fought for the happiness of this people, or these people. But how long will these people be tormented? Where did that come from? Our people liberated you from fascism, and this is your gratitude to our people? And there it goes again. Now you see true Russian colors coming out. It's not really about them being friends or anything. It's about subservient people showing their gratitude to the superior Russian, I guess you could say, race at this point. It's almost how they're viewing themselves, a lot like the Nazi Germans. It's not about, hey, we were friends at a point. We really hate that y'all aren't friends with us anymore. Why is that? It's more so, we liberated y'all. Y'all owe us eternal gratitude and subservience. Why aren't you giving that to us? We're displeased. Unfortunately, we're not here today to celebrate. Today we want to express our protest against fascism. Then why aren't y'all protesting to Putin? Against the nationalism that people in many countries are now arranging, like y'all. And they show themselves well in Ukraine, serving Americans, destroying our people. Boo-hoo. I, too, have no words to be outraged. We are all outraged by the behavior of these presidents. I'm outraged by the behavior of their president. All the Baltics who cannot calm down in any way and blame the Russians for everything, because y'all are at fault for everything. And the Russians always won, liberated, and helped everyone, and they hate us for it. I guess they're forgetting that the Red Army in the Second World War was known for just raping everything in their path. You can actually pull up statistics and figures to back that up. That's not just any kind of myth. That's backed up with figures, especially the rape of Berlin. If y'all want to know about that, just Google it. It's horrendous. But these lines of speech that they're saying are just stupid and baseless. We are against them all. I wish them nothing good. And I love how she contradicted her last statement. We just wanted everything in the world for them to be good. We wanted to help them, liberate them, and then I wish nothing good on them. I want them all dead. That's literally the complete opposite of what she just said the Russians wanted for them.
And Enforcer, who are these guys in the pictures they're holding?
I think they're actually the presidents of these countries, and unfortunately, everyone, I don't know every single world leader, deputy, and minister off the top of my head, so unfortunately I don't know, but I feel like one of them may be the prime minister of Estonia, or Lithuania, or Latvia, or Poland. I'm not exactly sure, but I think these are the heads of government in these countries. We have gathered here with a rally of indignation against the violation of human rights. Poland's policy is simply outrageous. I'm very outraged that our monuments are being removed in the Baltic countries. There is no limit to our indignation. And now they start burning the paper pictures. That's really solving it. Now that they're burning the picture of this leader, he just disappears off the face of the earth. It's like the Twilight Cornfield episode in their minds. Oh, look at that. They're really solving the world's problems right there.
What'd that take, like 2,000 rubles to print the picture off?
Yeah, they're so cheap they can't even get real flags. They had to print out the flags on paper and then burn them. This is just, it's pitiful. I just got to be honest with y'all. And it's sad to see that Russians fall into this trap of just believing this just straight up garbage. And then even these women are perpetrating it. Everything they said didn't make any sense, but once again, I want to show y'all these videos, the 3 videos I showed y'all today, to show y'all what the Russians really think and really act off of. They're not because a lot of people think that it's just the Russian military. They have no backing from society at all for what they're doing, but you gotta remember, those Russian soldiers, whether they're contract soldiers, conscript soldiers, that doesn't even matter. These people come from Russia. And their thoughts and their feelings on Ukrainians will be what the rest of society says it is. And we can see right here over all of these videos that the Russians feel that they're entitled to the world's subservience and obedience, especially in Eastern Europe, and that the Ukrainians and everyone else are practically inferior people when compared to the Russians. This is what you can see over these 3 videos, and that's what a large amount of Russia works off of to this day. Now, of course, there's a small amount, like we saw the woman who set the deputy's car on fire, that do not support this war at all, and to them, I thank them for being on the right side of history, because the Russians will certainly not go down in the favorable pages. And so with that, we're now finally moving out of Russia, and from all of that stupidity. I'm sorry to show that to y'all, but I want to show y'all what Ukraine is really going up against. And while the Russian government is collapsing, they are actually near rock bottom, honestly, at this point. They have almost run out of money, they've run out of vehicles nearly, they've run out of men, they're having to try and get more soldiers. And so, once you start getting down towards the rock bottom club, you have to start asking for help from the rock bottom gang. So we've got countries like North Korea, Cuba, and Venezuela in the rock bottom gang, but there's a country that has been completely untouched until today, and I've got to say, Russia has really hit rock bottom. Zimbabwe has joined the war for the Russians. Here's the video of some Zimbabwean soldiers getting ready to join the Russians in this war, and I don't think they're going to do well. So here's the video. Oh, Lord. This is the entire Zimbabwean army.
Oh no, Ukraine's in trouble.
Oh, they're in real trouble now.
This is like North Korea trying to join.
Yeah. These guys are going to change the war. They're sending the entire Zimbabwean army up there to fight for Russia. I'm just kidding. We don't know how large the contingent is, but apparently Zimbabwe actually supports Russia, which I think we need to start revisiting, looking into sanctions and sanctioning Zimbabwe into oblivion again, because we were thinking about doing that a while ago due to the atrocities that Mugabe's government was committing against the Zimbabweans and people in general. And I think we need to start revisiting that again, because that right there, considering they're supporting the Russians, which have straight up declared in many social circles that they want blood, they want to kill as many Ukrainians as possible, and the Zimbabweans are going to join them in this adventure, we need to make sure that Zimbabwe pays for even actually picking the Russian side. Very few countries have been bold enough to actually go, I support Russia, and Zimbabwe is now one of them. And so for that reason, I think it's time that we look into maybe, I don't know, since they don't really have a lot of allies, maybe the United States needs to go down there and make sure that the government is fair and at least taking care of their own people before they start sending them into the Russian meat grinder. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little bombshell of a news, and I'm sure that one came as a shock to a lot of y'all, because when I saw that news today, I was like, what? And honestly, give me just a second. I have to pull up the Zimbabwean army. I'm sure that it's not anything impressive. Zimbabwean military budget. Let's see how much they spend on their military yearly first. Oh, God. $547 million US.
They're definitely buying their helmets off of Wish.
Yes, they're buying everything off of Wish.com. Let's go back and look at these guys again real quick, because do these look like $547 million guys? Oh, yeah, they do. They don't even have bulletproof vests or anything like that, it seems. Let's see if we can get higher graphics. Yeah, no bulletproof vests. They got helmets, though, but I bet you they're Wish.com. It looks like they have sacks, like you would just, like, wear to school. I guess, like, backpacks in a way. They got AKs, of course. That's like the go-to, budget rifle for every country in the world.
Now, Enforcer, I wonder what they've been offered to join in the war, because surely they wouldn't just join it just to join it.
I think they kind of would. Because we gotta, now this would go into a lot of history and politics with Zimbabwe, which used to be Rhodesia, but Mugabe came to power pretty much off of the, well, I'm not even going to go into that because I feel like it even gets far too political, even just talking about history as it is with Zimbabwe, but they were probably offered nothing, honestly. If y'all know the historical context, you do. If you don't, I suggest you pull it up. I think that these guys just want to go there to kill Ukrainians because it's their time to do it, and no one's really going to stand in their way. But unlike Russia, which does have nuclear arms, Zimbabwe does not have nuclear arms. And so maybe the United States ought to think about going down there and conducting some peacekeeping operations, considering that the Zimbabwean government has been fairly unstable over the past few years. But with that, we're now going to be moving out of that little clip again, but let's go back to the Zimbabwean military figures before we move on. We can see that the entire military runs on $547 million US a year. But let's see the size of the Zimbabwean military. How big is it really? 29,000 in the Army and 4,000 in the Air Force. So incredibly small. This is almost nothing. It may as well be a token force. But let's go up here. It's 42 years old. Zimbabwe is a fairly new country. Let's scroll on down. Let's see here. Percentage of GDP. They spend 2.16% of their GDP on the military. Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. They've actually upped their budget to 1.7 billion. So they're really making some big
Dang.
strides. That's actually kind of big for them. I'm actually pretty shocked by that. But let's see here. So their biggest operations was getting involved in the Mozambique Civil War, Operation Lemon, and the Casa Banana raid. Beyond that, they haven't done anything at all. And so we don't even have a lot of information on them on the Wikipedia page. We can also see that they are involved in a coup d'etat against Mugabe, and the new government's under Emerson, unpronounceable last name, unfortunately. I don't know how to pronounce that. But I would honestly have to say, I don't think they're going to do a lot to help out the Russians. Just being honest with y'all, giving my honest assessment, I wouldn't even worry about these. And I think, honestly, they'll end up like the Syrians. The Syrians were touted to be joining the war on Russia's side, and then they never arrived. And so while Zimbabwe's getting a little bit of PR right now, I'm sure they're going to back out in the end and probably not join, considering that they only have 29,000 soldiers in the military. So with that, we are now going to be moving out of Zimbabwe, which is a complete twist in this war. Who would have imagined that we would have gone into southern Africa when covering the Ukraine war? But we're now going to be returning back to Ukraine, and we're about to cover our location unknowns and the Kharkiv segment. But before we get there and cover all of that news, we're going to take a quick pause because, of course, it is fundraiser night, and we would be amiss if we didn't recognize our top donors for the night, also address some of our polls, and also encourage everyone to support the fundraiser. I'll once again give a little bit of spiel, just in case you weren't around for the first one, as to why this fundraiser is incredible and why you should support it. And so with that, take it away, Matthew.
All right, folks, and we are now sitting at $4,000 on the fundraiser of our $5,000 goal. So, tremendous progress. We are only 30 minutes into the stream, so we have quite a ways to go, and only $1,000 more on the goal. So, doing tremendously well on that front. And we also have quite a lengthy list of top supporters. Enforcer, whenever you're ready, I can read them off.
Let's hit it.
All right, so up first, we have our largest donation of the night from Sylvester the Cat, who puts in a $450 donation to the Children of Ukraine fundraiser. Sylvester, very, very generous of you, and thank you so much for that. We also have a $250 donation from Khan Azor, also very generous, and then a couple of $150 donations. We have one from I'm Your Huckleberry and BC Skyman. And then we have several $100 donations. We have one from Kimberly Brokaw, Fernando Kirka, Amy Atkins, and then we have a $75 donation from Kyle Parkerson, a $70 donation from Cal Vincent, and then we have our $50 donations. We have that one from Heather Fitzgibbon, David Capps, Teresa Bass, Magic Sky Girl, Praise Adonai, Steve I or L, I can't tell which letter that is, Mecca 15, Richard Bell, Shirley 145, Shannon Alaminsky, and our last one for the moment is David Phillips. So big thanks to all of our top donors of the night. We are now sitting at 4.1 thousand, and also a big thanks to all of those who have donated smaller amounts that we were unable to call out. All of that helps us add up to our total figure. So thank you all so very much.
And thank you to every single one of y'all, big and small donors who have contributed tonight. Some of y'all have gone above and beyond and have just gone all out in trying to support Save the Children. And I got to thank y'all all so much as well. Just in case if y'all weren't around, I did put in $100 of my own money at the beginning of the stream. I do that on every single fundraiser, and that is in my way, my help in supporting Ukraine, and also it's my verification that I do believe in the fundraiser, and I always believe in every single one that we run on this channel, and every single organization that we pick has been incredibly good so far. Now, real quick, now that I've recognized that, and also I just saw a massive wave of donations come in, and we've gotten up to $4.3 thousand. And we're getting up to 4.5. I wonder if we're going to reach the $5,000 goal here in just the next few minutes. I would actually be pretty interested. But before I get too sidetracked on that, I would like to mention again to y'all the history of Save the Children, so that way y'all can know what this fundraiser is for. Save the Children is a 103-year-old organization that has been helping out children around the world for that entire time. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of children have been saved by this organization, Save the Children. And not only that, but to give you all an idea of how incredible this organization is, they were usually the first one to the concentration camps in Nazi Germany and were helping out hundreds of thousands of children who had been suffering for years inside of those camps. They are an incredible organization. That's just a small part of their history. If you pull them up, it's been incredible through and through. They have saved countless children, and even to this day in the Ukraine war, they are still out there making sure that children are not preyed upon and they're not taken away by sexual predators and many other things, and they're making sure that these kids stay safe. And what is more important than making sure that the next generation actually grows up and can return to the country they came from and make sure to keep the fire burning, kind of like the Billy Joel song, We Didn't Start the Fire. But with that, I hope that y'all all support Save the Children as best you can. It's an incredible organization, and your donation is actually going towards saving the children of Ukraine. And we know that a lot of them have been caught in the unfortunate crossfire. There's been several hundred children killed in this war already, and your donation could go towards saving some of those children and making sure that they will also not fall victim to Russian fire. And so now that I've said that, let's answer 3 questions from the live chat, and after we answer those 3 questions, we'll then be moving on into the next segment.
All right, so real quick, we do have one poll to go over. And I see some of you in the live chat saying, poll, you forgot the poll. So here we go. The question was, will the Russian government attempt to conduct a Holocaust-style genocide against captured Ukrainians? It looks like 68% of you said, yes, I believe it is very probable. 22% said...
Pause. Jimmy Hintz just sent in $500 and took us over the goal. We are now at $5.1 thousand thanks to Jimmy Hintz, Bass Girl, who also sent in $50, and an anonymous with 100, anonymous with 25 Canadian, anonymous with 20, another anonymous with 20, a lot of anonymouses, but I gotta thank every single one of y'all so much because we just reached the $5,000 goal. Now that we've done this in about 40 minutes in stream, I've got a question, and of course we're going to run a poll on this while we address the last one. So Matthew, go ahead and start typing this one up. Should we raise the goal to, and then we'll put some figures to 7.5 thousand or 10,000, and we'll make those the 2 options for now. Or no, keep it as is, make those the 3 options, and we'll see what everyone votes for, just in case the Lee Spring Army wants to go even further.
So the option was to 7.5 thousand to 10,000, and what was the third one?
Or no, keep it as is.
Okay, and that poll should be going up right now, so feel free to vote on that one. And we are going to move back into our poll that we were going over. So once again, the question was, will the Russian government attempt to conduct a Holocaust-style genocide against captured Ukrainians? 68% said yes, I believe it is very probable. 22% said maybe, it's hard to say, and 9% said no, they will not go that far. Now for me, I would fall within the section that say yes, simply because it sounds like Russia's rhetoric is getting a lot more heated, and that video that was shown earlier of the guy holding the skull certainly isn't a good sign when it comes to tensions getting worse between the peoples. So Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
I honestly think that the Russians will most likely try and create some kind of concentration camps. But honestly, to look at it in a historical perspective, I don't think they'll create camps, but I do think they will create a group like the Einsatzgruppen. And if y'all don't know about the Einsatzgruppen, at the beginning of the Second World War, the plan for the Germans was to just go through with special groups of pretty much firing squads and go through and just execute people. The Germans found out, however, that doing that and killing off hundreds of thousands of people through that means was too cost inefficient. It cost too much to produce the bullets to kill these people. And so then they came up with the plan of using camps and also using gas to kill people because it'd be far more cost efficient, which is really sick when you think about it because they're trying to figure out the way to streamline genocide and killing off millions of people. But that's the actual history behind it. And right now, I think that the Russians would more so be focused, considering that the war hasn't gone on long enough for them to create any kind of camps at a fast rate. I think they would most likely go with something like an Einsatzgruppen squad, like we saw in the Second World War. And we've already got a precedent for that in the Bucha Hospital European area. Y'all may remember that famous video, the infamous video at this point, of the Russians guiding off those Ukrainians back behind the building and then spraying them down with machine guns, which is a lot like what the Einsatzgruppen would do. And so with that, I hope that does kind of answer the poll in my regard, because I certainly do think, considering what the Russians are publicly saying these days within their own country, and is becoming a mainstream thing, that is most likely the direction the Russians will be heading in, and I think it's sickening. And if it does start heading in that direction, that requires the entire world to step forward and stop it dead in its tracks. And so with that, I hope we addressed that poll. We're now on to answer 3 questions from the chat. And so with that, what do we got?
All right, and first up, we have our 3 decoders of the stream, WF2U, Mark Hodges, and Ashley, who have figured out the Morse code. They say message number 1, Kremlin Senate, Tervosky District, Moscow, Russia. And message number 2, I don't want to be corny, but Russian tanks cook like popcorn, equals Slava Ukraine.
And I thank y'all so much for deciphering the messages again. And y'all got both of them correct as usual. And I hope y'all like the little corny joke I made. It was literally corny, pun intended. And also, yes, I did point out the Russian Senate building here within the Kremlin, because at this point, ought to be a target. So I hope that addresses that real quick. And thank you to all 3 of y'all so much once again for enjoying those little Morse code messages and always deciphering them. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Ukraine F. Putin, who says, Enforcer, did you make an appearance on a live stream today, or was it some kind of imposter?
I did make an appearance on a live stream today. I was actually over there checking out the channel and seeing what was going on. I did ask if he would like to come over and do a fundraiser with us, but I never got any reply. And I was trying to check up on that because we've seen emails before and we've never gotten a reply to anything at this point, honestly. So we're trying to see if we can get them over as a guest star, but who knows? It seems like it's kind of hard to reach them. So with that, I hope that answers the question. And we are on to the final one of this segment before we move into the next bit of news. And so with that, who's the final question of this segment?
So for this segment, the final question is from Duncan VR, who does not put in any sheep noises tonight. Duncan, I love it. And he says, question, what is the capability of Russia's nuclear weapons? Are they up-to-date weapons or 50-year-old missiles?
Can you reread that one real quick so I can make sure to understand it correctly?
He said, what is the capability of Russia's nuclear weapons? Are they up-to-date weapons, or are they 50 years old?
As far as we know, the Russian nuclear weapons will be probably around 50 years old. They have certainly not had the budget to produce new ones. They are all Soviet era, so they're at least probably at this point around 30 to 40 years old. All of them are. Some of them may be new, but that's going to be a minute number compared to the total size of their arsenal. One does have to remember that when the Soviet Union collapsed and the Russian Federation took its place, controlling vast swaths of what used to be Russia, they actually had so little money that the United States had to pay the Russians to take their submarines, the nuclear submarines that they literally left at port and were rotting away with active nuclear reactors in them, and we had to go through and pretty much disarm a lot of their nuclear weapons because the Russians did not have the budget to take care of it, nor did they really have the inclination to, and they were willing to let the stuff just seep radioactive waste into the world rather than take care of it. So in that regard, I know for sure that most of their weapons will be of vintage at this point. None of them are brand new, and I think in the United States that will also be the case as well. Most of our nuclear weapons are not brand new. A lot of them were produced a decent while ago, and we just continue to upkeep them and have them ready to use to this day. So with that, I hope that does answer that question, at least to my knowledge. And with that, we have reached the end of this little question segment. We'll now be moving on to the next segment of news, but before we do, we have to address this poll. So, Matthew, can you take it away real quick while I make the necessary changes?
All right, so this poll was about whether or not we should raise our goal on the fundraiser. It looks like 48% said raise to 10,000. So that, guess what? That's the winner. And then we have 31% that said up to 7.5 thousand, and 21% said keep the same. So, guess what? We're raising it to 10,000, and here we go.
All right, so the goal has been raised to 10,000, and the Leaf Spring Army, get to it, lads. Let's get up to $10,000 before the end of this stream. I will actually be really impressed if we get to do that again. And it's an absolute honor at this point to know the Lee Spring Army is just chomping at the bits to always go higher and higher and try and support Ukraine as much as we can. It's an honorable thing, and I have to thank you all so much for having massive hearts of gold and always wanting to help out Ukraine any way we can. And so with that, let me go and fix everything analytically over here because I actually had some stuff flipped around so that way I could focus on that.
And while the enforcer works on that, real quick, I'm going to shout out a couple of more donations that we've gotten in, some pretty large ones. Once again, a big shout out to Jimmy Hintz for putting in that $500 donation. That is our largest one of the night so far, so thank you very much for that. We also have a $100 donation from Justice Ryan, a $50 donation from Susan G, and a $50 donation from none other than Bass Girl. So thank you very much to all four of you for your support of the fundraiser. We are currently sitting at 5.7 thousand, and our new goal is 10,000. So we have a little ways to go, but I have no doubt that the Lee Spring Army will get us there very shortly.
And I have no doubt whatsoever in the Lee Spring Army. Like Michael Stackpole that just sent in $100, I have no doubt that we will be able to reach that $10,000 goal by the end of the night. And so with that, we're now moving into the next segment of news, and we're starting off in our location unknown area with a Russian tank being destroyed by a mine. This is what they get for being just plain out goofy. Also, oh my god, wow, the chat's going insane right now. We'll have to address that here in a second. And boom goes the dynamite. It was a T-80 BVM. Oh man, okay, this one right here is not a T-72B3. T-80 BVMs are a little bit more expensive than a T-72, and this is the newest one in the Russian army that's actually used on the front. And the thing got knocked out. This is incredible. And it got detracked on both sides. You can actually see one of the drive sprockets back there still spinning around. So with that, that's the end of the video, and it's beautiful to see that another Russian tank has been destroyed. With that, we're now moving on to the next bit of Location Unknown news, where we can see a drone attack, once again perpetrated by the Ukrainians onto the Russians, and it looks like the Russians took some naps. We can see the Russians down there on the road. They're walking around a little. And we all know that's a crime. Russians should not be walking around in Ukraine. They should be back where they are supposed to be, which is in Russia. When you see the Russians running, and it looks like one of them at the top of the screen got the bad end of things, and it looks like he's not going to be able to fulfill Russia's dreams in the future. He stumbled into the trench, the other Russian is running around trying to figure out where to go, and then the drone flies off. It's good to see that the Ukrainians are still raining terror down on the Russians, because once again, every once in a while it kind of becomes dissociated from all of us, what the Russians really want to do, and then you see the stuff that they said today, and then you're like, well, now you understand why the Ukrainians double tap sometimes, and why they do other things to the Russian forces on the ground, is because they're trying to get them out of the country as fast as possible, and the longer the Russians stay there, the higher the chance is that more Ukrainians will be killed needlessly by the Russians perpetrating atrocities behind the lines that we don't know about yet. So with that, we're now on to the next bit of Location Unknown news, where we can see the Ukrainians under fire in the woods, and they handle it like champs, of course, as usual. So with that, here's this quick little video. Actually, this was longer than the last one. This is about a minute and a half. You can see them moving through the woods and taking cover behind a fallen tree.
Ложись!
You see them getting down again. They're now getting back up again. Shells are screaming overhead and exploding about 100 yards or so in the distance. That one was incredibly close.
Побежали. По дороге вниз.
When you see that they're still moving around and trying to make sure not to get hit by the artillery, and of course they're handling the entire situation with the calm, collected professionalism that the Ukrainians have exhibited through these 6 months of war. And so with that, that's the end of this video, and it's still great to see that while the Ukrainians do come under fire sometimes, they handle it far more professionally than the Russians ever will, and they even continue to advance in the direction they were trying to go in the very start of the video, unlike the Russians who just run anywhere once they come under fire. With that, we're now going to be moving into our next bit of Location Unknown news, where we can see the Ukrainians having a little bit of a makeover on a Humvee. It's a really cool thing. And also they have some rap music. But we can see here a Humvee in that typical desert tan that a lot of people here in the United States got familiar with over the past 2 decades or so of us being in the middle of, I guess you could say, the Middle East. We can now see that the thing got redone with a Ukrainian paint scheme to match the environment. They actually did a really good job. And so with that, that's the end of that little video, and it's neat to see that sometimes the Ukrainians go the extra mile sometimes and do things like repaint the vehicles so that way they have a more fitting camo to the environment. And so, with that, we are now on to something that we haven't covered in a few days, and we always check on this periodically, and today is that day, the casualty figures. And let's take a look at the Russian losses. Ooh. Dang. Alright, that's not looking good for the Russians. It looks like they're getting really close to 47,000 at this point, and as we all know, that's not good. We can also see that 3 Russian tanks have been knocked out today. They're getting really close to 2,000 tanks knocked out. Just so close. Another 3 armored personnel carriers, 5 towed artillery pieces, no MLRSs, no anti-aircraft systems, no planes, helicopters, boats. They did get 2 additional UAVs today, no new special equipment, and 6 fuel trucks and supply vehicles. And so not an incredibly high day, but one can never miss that 250 Russian soldiers have been killed again today. That means that probably another 500 to 750 soldiers were wounded as well. And so total, probably another 1,000 Russian soldiers, a little bit over the size of a battalion tactical group, has been knocked out again today by the Ukrainians. It's an impressive feat, honestly, to think that the Ukrainians have been racking up these kinds of casualties for the Russians throughout the entirety of this war, and hopefully they'll be able to keep it up and eventually push the Russians out. Also, one other thing I'd like to mention is that Sevastopol, we will be getting to this later on today. Sevastopol did come under fire today, and we saw a radar installation get blown up. And actually, I'm going to save that little rabbit hole for a little bit later, because I think a lot of y'all will enjoy it, but it's not really relevant right now. I'm just kind of chomping at the bits to get to it. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from the casualty statistics. Once again, take a good look, and for the Russian bots that are watching, read it and weep, baby. And so with that, we're now moving out of the location unknowns, and we're going to move into the Kharkiv area, where we've seen that the Ukrainians have been blasting the Russians away from the ground. Y'all may have remembered that back in the day, or even to this day, marble sculptors use a chisel and hammer to chip away at the marble until they get a nice looking, I guess you could say, a statue or a figure. The Ukrainians kind of do the same thing, but their chisel is the M777 shell, and their hammer is the M777 itself. And the marble is the poor Russians on the other end. And so here's the first video we got from the Kharkiv pocket of the Russians getting blasted away by the 4th Rapid Response Brigade. So here's the video. That's some epic music, but we gotta mute it. I'm sorry about that, everyone. When you see the artillery coming down, and each one is fueled by the tears of Russian bots. We haven't said that in a while, but I'd like to think that Russian bots are in here. They've been muted by us already, and they're just watching and they're crying. By the way, they also do hit the dislike button, so our dislike rate on these videos has gotten down to around 98 to 97.5%. So if you want to stick it to the Russian bots and get our like rate up to close to 99%, make sure to hit the like button, so that way I can at least see that we're combating the bots on the like and dislike button. When you can see the drone looking down into the trenches, or what's left of these trenches, it looks more like just a bunch of molehills now. And they have certainly knocked these guys out. Good lord. We'll have to address that in the next segments. And it doesn't look like there's much left at all, really. And it's great to see. It's good to know that the Russians don't even get to have the luxury of having trenches. We see the Ukrainian drone taking a very good look at it. And I'd have to say at this point, I don't know about y'all, but this trench looks like it's taken a little bit of damage, might require some repairs. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into our second video from the Kharkiv pocket in Mali Perkodi, where we saw the Ukrainians committing a little bit of counterfire here. Credit for this counterfire goes to both the 92nd Mechanized Brigade and also the 40th Artillery Brigade. And so, with that, there's all the watermarks for all the brigades involved, and here's the video. With some pretty good music. We can see that the Russian artillery is in that tree line, and the Ukrainians are already on it like, what was that? Like a, wait, I'm trying to think of the saying. They're on it like a pit bull on a poodle, I think is what it was. But they're already, yes. Yeah, there it is. And they're slamming away at the Russians all over the place, of course. And this is most likely near Mali Perkodi, like we said earlier. And we see them trying to tow away a vehicle, and it looks like they may have actually been successful in that, but the Russians did take a look in there because they're having to pull one of their vehicles out of the front. And so great to see that the Ukrainians are still hammering away at the Russians in this little pocket, and the Russians have not been able to make any progress out of it whatsoever. The Ukrainians have held the line, and the Russians are taking just a straight up beating at this point in this area. And so with that, we're now going to be moving past the Chuhuiv and Balaklia area, where, of course, guess what? We have nothing to report. So we're now going to be moving on down towards the Izium area and the Seversk finger, along with Donetsk, the Southern Front, Kherson, and Crimea, along with Odessa. But before we get to all of that news, we're going to take a quick pause to recognize some of our largest donors to this fundraiser tonight, and also answer 3 questions from the chat. And also, if we have any polls, we'll address those as well. And so, take it away, Matthew.
All right, folks, and we are now in the second to last question segment of the stream. And I see the like button getting hit quite a bit. We're up to 2.1 thousand on the like, so thank you very much for that. And we're also up to 7,000 on our fundraiser, so getting closer to our goal. And our top donors at the moment are Eduardo Gonzalez, who puts in a $300 donation, Talos Principal, who puts in a $250 donation. Then we have a couple of $100 donations. We have one from Michael Stackpole and Joe Higginbotham. We also have a few 50s. We have one from Steve I, Beam, Ted D, and Krister Peterson. So a big thanks to all of you for your support of tonight's fundraiser. We appreciate you all equally and very much.
And I got to thank each and every one of y'all, of course, as well, for supporting this fundraiser. We have gotten up to $7,000. Can we all get an LSA for the $7,000 raise? We are $3,000 away from the $10,000 goal, and we're also a couple of yee-haws away as well. And so if we can get some more support, another round on the house for Save the Children, and also another thing, if it would help, I will throw in another $100 into this fundraiser if we can get another round going. Because if we can do that, it would mean a lot. It does save children. And of course, poor innocent children don't deserve to be in a war and suffering like some of them are right now. And I think that this is one of the best fundraisers we've ever run outside of the ones that support Ukrainian soldiers directly, because it is actually making a difference for unfortunate kids. And while every civilian's innocent, there's always an extra added layer of innocence to children, and I do believe that we should support them wholeheartedly. And so with that, we're now going to move on to the questions, and if we see another round of support come through, I'm going to fling in another $100. And so with that, we're on to the questions.
All right, and moving on to our questions, the first one we have is from Albert Santiago, who says, the question stands, where are those Ukrainians that were moved to Russia?
I don't know. I mean, we just heard that they disappeared, kind of, and that's the scariest thing about it. We have no idea what's happened to them. They were taken by the Russians, pushed into the country, and then they just went off the face of the earth. So in that regard, I can't really tell you. I don't really know. I don't think anyone knows at this point. So with that, I hate to say it, but I'm going to have to declare ignorance on it. But hopefully those Ukrainians are safe somehow, and they can, and hopefully eventually return back to Ukraine. And so with that, I hope I answered that question fairly well. And since I'm already seeing that the donations are starting to roll in fairly well, I will throw in another $100 real quick. So that way, if that is the motivator, I don't know what is. So let me do that real quick. 1 second, everyone. Hang on. Just trying to get through the pages, and it should be popping up in the live chat any second now. There we go. And so, with that, and also that terrible voice crack, we are now on to the next question.
All right, and moving on to our next question, we have a live chat question from CH, who says, Enforcer, is anyone going to bring up that Zimbabwe uses American dollars as their main currency? Are they switching to Russian rubles? Also, they're gambling a lot of tourism dollars. And I'll be totally honest, I didn't know Zimbabwe had a lot of tourism.
Zimbabwe actually relies on tourism heavily for their economy, surprisingly enough. There's not a lot that goes on in Zimbabwe economically. They don't really have much to do. And on top of that, they're usually involved in famines because for some reason the population has never really learned how to farm. But anyways, moving on from that, Zimbabwe does use the US dollar as their primary currency because their national currency is completely worthless. And of course, y'all all may know that. That's like the basic fact that you learn in school, is that there are two things that are worthless. The Russians saying, believe me, bro, and also Zimbabwean money.
Whoa! Baxter Land putting in a $1,000 donation. Dang!
God! Thank you, Baxter Land, for the $1,000 donation. We are $1,300 away from $10,000. Baxterland literally just threw in, if we reach the goal tonight, 10% of our fundraiser goal. Thank you so much. That's just unbelievable. We haven't seen anything like that in a while. We haven't seen that since the days of Narya, and that was a while ago. And I gotta say, thank you so much for that. Everyone give a huge congratulations and thanks to Baxterland. Who knows how many children... And also, I'll throw one in. And I don't know how many I don't know how many children will be saved by $1,000, but I can guarantee you it will probably be a massive amount. And so with that, I'm blown away. I don't even know where we were at. Could you refresh me where I was at, Matthew, before we saw that?
So we were actually addressing the question from CH about Zimbabwe and tourism.
Oh yeah. So they rely on tourism a lot, and so it's kind of interesting. We can actually pull up the Zimbabwean economy. And I know this is a little bit of a rabbit hole. I know some people don't like him. A lot of people like him. But let's see, Zimbabwean economy. And it's actually kind of small, to say the least. Their GDP per year, oh my God, 20 billion. Oh my Lord. Zimbabwe makes half of what Amazon makes in a year as a nation, with a population of 15 million people, just around. Let's see. The economy mainly relies on its tertiary industry, which makes up 60% of the GDP. Zimbabwe has the second biggest informal economy as a share of its economy, which has a score of 60.6%. Agriculture and mining largely contribute to exports. The economy of Zimbabwe grew on average from 12% to 2009 to 2013. It is one of the fastest growing economies in the world, but that doesn't really say much considering that they started at rock bottom. Let's see here. Let's scroll down and let's try and get... Okay, so here's that, the imports. Let's see what they import. A lot of cars, a lot of petroleum, a lot of tobacco. Jesus, 5% of their imports are tobacco. Golly, that's nuts. And then nickel, some industrial diamonds. But let's see what they export. At least in 2010. Wholly or partly stripped tobacco is 20%. Wow, they literally... That's weird. They almost export everything they import. Notice that nickel is one of the things that they export, along with partially stripped tobacco.
Oh,
and
1.3% Coke.
Wait, what? Where?
I'm assuming that's Coca-Cola. Hopefully.
Semi-Coke. Unfortunately, it's cut off, so I can't really read it. I think that may be Coke, like the iron form of Coke, if you know what I mean. I don't think that has anything to do with cocaine or anything like that, so... Hopefully we don't... YouTube, don't come for us. We didn't mean that way. But still, their economy is kind of a little jank, and there's not a lot going on there. So with that, now that we've covered that, I don't really think the Zimbabweans will make that big of a difference. So I hope that answers that question. And we are now going to move on to the last one of this segment, and then we'll be moving on to our last segment of news.
All right. And for our last question of the segment, we have one from Jampa Peltatolo, who says, what has been the biggest surprise to both of you about the war? Now, for me, the biggest surprise is honestly how well the Ukrainians have fought back against the Russians. Prior to the war starting, I wasn't sure if Ukraine was going to be able to hold out, or at least if they would have the will to hold out. But it is very clear that I underestimated them tremendously. And what I thought was a somewhat powerful country, Russia, is actually not holding up well at all against Ukraine, which is great because they've wrongfully invaded Ukraine. So hopefully Ukraine can win.
The thing that stood out to me the most, I knew the Ukrainians would last, but I didn't know how many casualties they would inflict. And that's the numbers that are getting incredibly shocking to me, is that the Ukrainians have somehow almost straight up killed close to 47,000 Russian soldiers and took out more than half of the Russian main battle tank force at this point, along with a lot of Russia's, I guess you could say, combat wing of their air force. And that's been what is most shocking to me. Not only that, but they've also caused considerable damage to the Black Sea Fleet as well. And so in all of those regards, honestly, them holding out wasn't going to be a massive shocker to me, but the amount of casualties they've inflicted has been the most impressive thing to me. Because we do have to remember, Russia was not an impressive country before the war. It's just that they had the image of being an impressive country, and a lot of people gave them too much credit. Now that the war started, we now see that they're terrible. I mean, like, they're terrible in every single regard, and there's just rife corruption all over the place in Russia that's leading to soldiers getting killed all over the place. Their equipment is completely inferior to anything that's present in the world right now. It's all really been a shock to me with how badly the Russians have actually performed, especially in the terms of the casualty figures. And so with that, I hope that answers that question. And before we move on to our final segment of the night, I know that some people tonight, and honestly, I gotta say this, I don't know why people complain about us focusing on the fundraiser on Sunday nights, because there are some people who do say that. We are supporting Ukraine. If you don't understand that, I don't know what's wrong with a person like that and why we wouldn't focus on it. But anyways, we are at $9.6 thousand, and in the middle of me sitting there talking about those people who complain about us talking about the fundraiser, we got another $100 in a donation from Dutch R. Gin. Wait a minute, we just got Stefan R. with $20, which has brought us up to 9.7. We are $300 away from the $10,000 goal. That means that one large donation will put us over the top. And so I'm wondering if we will reach that here in a second. And if we do, I'm going to blow my lungs out with a yee-haw, and Matthew probably will too. But with that, we've now reached the end of this little question segment, and we're now moving into our final bit of news. Starting off in the Izium area, where we've seen the Ukrainians commit a little drone strike. And Seedless Green said, killing it. When he said that, Matthew, I just heard Kevin Banya from Seinfeld saying, I'm killing it, Jerry, killing it. And so here's the video of the Russians wandering around the trees. Of course, the Ukrainian drone observing them the whole time, and it looks like some of them are getting into little groups. Ooh.
Oh my.
Oh goodness, that did not look good for them. And now we can see that they're doing the 4-man stretcher routine where they're going to pull them in every direction. And we can see that they're in a massive group once again. Oh, we reached $10,000! We did it! Yeah!
Oh my
we
goodness.
did it! We've reached $10,000 and we're going above and beyond that. I gotta thank the Lee Spring Army once again for making this possible. Without y'all, this wouldn't be happening. And it's unbelievable. We are 186 days into this war right now. And we run a fundraiser every single Sunday that we've been able to. Right now at this point, I think we're up to 24 or 25 fundraisers total. And we are still able to reach $10,000 in a single fundraiser. It's unbelievable. I've got to thank each and every one of y'all so much. And for that, I highly still suggest that if you want to donate, please do donate. But for the rest of y'all, sit back, relax. The Lee Spring Army has proven to everyone out there on YouTube that we are the #1 undefeated fundraising champion. There is no other channel that I know of right now, rather than the one that if we mention will probably get, our stream will probably go down. Y'all all know who he is. He's like the biggest channel on YouTube. There's no one else on YouTube, I believe, at this point that has raised more for Ukraine than this channel. And it's all to the Lee Spring Army. Every single little bit of credit goes to every single one of y'all. And so with that, thank you so much to all of y'all, once again, for making this possible every single week. It honestly, it makes me so excited to see that we're able to just blow through goals and go well above them, and even to see the Lee Spring Army demanding that we go higher. It's all impressive to me. It's unbelievable, and I know that a lot of Ukrainians out there must appreciate what this channel is doing and what the Lee Spring Army does as an entire unit. And so with that, we're now going to let this video continue, which is showing the Russians in a pretty screwed up situation. We can see them dropping off one of the guys and then just wandering off as usual. They're just going to leave him there. Wait a minute, what? Wait a minute, how in the world do we get to 12,000?
What? Okay, now that's that weird YouTube thing. It either recalculates... Wait a minute, 15,000? Okay, everybody's getting different numbers, apparently.
No, I think everyone's demanding that it goes up to another figure.
Huh.
I don't know, but on our screen, it's showing 12,000. But...
Well, 12,000. Yeah!
Yes,
sir!
And let's go. Let's freaking go. Honestly, that's crazy. I don't know who sent in that because I didn't see it come through on the live chat. But $12,000. We're now $2,000 over the second goal. I think we could probably make it to 15,000 again. I don't know about y'all, but I think that might be a possibility. But we're not going
to... Enforcer, we don't need a poll. I say go to 15,000. Let's do it.
I say let's just go to 15,000. The army can do it. I have faith in the army. So let's just do it. Let me go over here real quick. Give me just a second, everyone. I know that's going to be inactive on the screen for a little bit. But 15,000, maybe? Let's see here.
And Enforcer, while you do that, I'm going to call out our top donors because we have quite a few right now. So, up first, I want to give another shout out to Baxter Land for putting in that $1,000 donation. Very generous of them. We also have a $300 donation from Brian Cave and Loy Wen. We have a $200 donation from Pell Rider. Then we have several $100 donations. We have one from BC Skyman, Sean Collins, Dutch R. Jen, James Reyes, and then we have several $50 donations. We have one from Seedless Green, Magic Sky Girl, Twan Fam, Dragoon 50, $50 donation from Jay McLean Music and Gaming, Axel K, Eric Bouchot, Portstan, Justice Ryan, Henning Hansen, White Lightning 777, and Jared Draper. So, let me make sure I didn't miss anybody here in the last 30 seconds or so, and it doesn't look like I have. So, thank you so very much once more. We're sitting at 12,000, and we're raising the goal to 15,000.
And I'm blown away at this point. I'm speechless. Let's get to $15,000. Let's do it. And if we get to 15,000, I see the chat calling for blood. They want 20K. If we reach 15K, we will probably, if we reach 15K in like the next 20 minutes, we will probably send it up to 20. Because tonight we are on a roll and the army is unstoppable. Everyone slam the like button if you want more people to hop in here and know what we're doing. Because I think that more people will hop in here and help us all and join the Lee Spring Army and help this fundraiser to get to unbelievable heights. Probably one of the biggest fundraisers. What in the world? Ulysses Guzman sent in 400 Mexican pesos, I believe. Goodness.
Yes, sir.
And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into the next bit of news from this massive bombshell. And so with that, I'm absolutely...
Also, real quick, thank you to Anonymous as well.
Also, yes, thank you to the anonymous, everyone who is an anonymous donor. We don't know who y'all are, but we do thank y'all so much for y'all's massive contribution to these fundraisers. And honestly, I'm so freaking hyped right now. I've never been this hyped in a while. So anyways, we're moving on to the Sloviansk area where we saw that a ceramic factory had been destroyed by the Russians, but of course the Ukrainians and their industriousness are taming the blaze. Hopefully no one was killed, but once again, we don't have any figures on that right now. And so, with that, We're now going to be moving on into the next bit of news. Further down the front line, we've got nothing to report from the Seversk area, but we did see that the stupid Wagner group is in Kodema. Hopefully they'll get blasted away by artillery incredibly soon, so we can keep up this hype. Alright, so here we go. Here's the video. We can see them holding up a sign that they just made a second ago.
Ну говори, мы в Кадеме.
Look at this guy. He's trying to be like some kind of U.S. Army impersonation with a black beret. It's like, give up, man. You'll never be that good. And that laugh right there. The guy behind the cameraman just laughed like Peter Griffin. He just went,
Кадема почти взята, еще чуть-чуть осталось. Совсем чуть-чуть.
We see them showing. Oh my god! These idiots showed their exact location on the phone. Google time. Kodema. Village in Ukraine. Let's go there. Let's look at that on their phone. So on the main road, there's a little loop road. These clowns are. Oh yeah, let me go. Maybe there's a creek there. Let's go to satellite view. The fools, they're right here. They're literally right here. We found them. They literally showed us where they are.
Работаем, мы продвигаемся.
Call up Starsky.
Blast these idiots.
Мне ничего никто не говорит. Осталось чуть-чуть, а потом бахну. Эй, бля!
I call for the NAFO Cheems what was it called, the 9000 thing. I call for that thing to be the one that
Super bunker.
Yeah, I call for Super Bunker 9000 to blow this place into the sky, because these Wagner guys are not going to make it out of here. The Ukrainians keep on slamming these guys deliberately, and they literally just showed their location to the entire world. And so with that, we are now on to the next bit of news from the front lines. I'm so hyped, I'm trying to remember where I'm at right now. We haven't gotten any activity in the Seversk area. The Ukrainians hold the line. And so with that, we're now moving down to Donetsk, where we can see that in the Makivka area, it is HIMARS o'clock, as a Russian soldier was woken up by HIMARS strikes right outside his room. We can see him sleeping on a couch. The rockets are exploding outside, and he wakes up. It's HIMARS o'clock time.
What was that falling out of the roof?
Probably some kind of insulation, maybe. Camera shifted a little bit.
It's the neighbors and their blasted loud music again.
My neighbors are always listening to loud drum and bass.
Turn that bass down, Ivan.
A normal night in Detroit. And so that's the end of the video, and huge credit to the HIMARS. They continuously slam behind the Russian lines, making sure that none of them get a good night's sleep like we saw right there. And this man even forgot his pants. And so with that, we are on to the next bit of news, which is actually from the front line itself in the Pisky area, where we can see a drone footage of Pisky today. Removing the flute, which was kind of unexpected. We can see the ruins of what used to be Pisky Village, and we can see that the fighting here has been incredibly, I guess you could say, heavy, and I guess would be the best word for it. And then there's a lot of people saying, don't be dissing on Detroit. Yes, it is nice in some places, but y'all know what I'm talking about. There's videos on YouTube of people driving around, and it's just like, it sounds like a battlefield out there. But downtown Detroit, don't get me wrong, it's still nice. Like every downtown, I guess, you know, every downtown looks good, but Birmingham downtown. Everywhere else but the downtown. Anyways, let's get back to Pisky and focus on this. We can see the destruction is just all over. And also, I hate this. This church has been decently damaged, and it looked like an incredibly nice one. And I always hate to see historic structures like this being hit. But the Ukrainians have been fighting tooth and nail for this town, and that's one thing that the destruction does confirm, is that the Russians have not taken this town, and the Ukrainians will fight until the town breaks before they do. There's actually a nice house right there. It's like a mansion or something. And the destruction goes on and on and on, all the way to the very edge of the town. It's a bittersweet thing, because while seeing all this destruction lets us know that dozens, if not hundreds, of families will never return to where they came from, one thing you can confirm with this type of destruction is that the Ukrainians have held the line, and they're not giving up this town until the thing doesn't exist. There's not really much for me to add here. It's just taking a lot of good looks at the destruction, and every single building in this city has been destroyed to the point that it will have to be razed at the end of this war. And we also got to look at a airfield strip out there, which lets us know exactly what area of the town they're looking at. So if we go down to Pisky, we can see that the drone is looking over the town towards the direction of the Donetsk airfield. Which we can see right out there in the distance. Kind of crazy to think that with the drone you can see the entire front line like that. Ian R just said, "Who bombs a place of worship?" Well, the Russians do. They'll bomb anything. They'll bomb theaters, churches, anything. They'll bomb just normal residential buildings, like all of the houses that you see here. The Russians will do that and a lot more. I hate to say those kinds of things about the Russians, because my normal inclination is to always say there's a silver lining somewhere, but the Russians have just shown there is no silver lining with Russia. They are probably the most cruel people I've seen in the modern day, especially doing what they've done. No other country in the 21st century has gotten close to doing something like this. And I know that someone's about to give the natural knee-jerk reaction of, well, the United States went to Iraq and Afghanistan, but you didn't see them leveling entire towns and villages like this. Yeah, they would drop a JDAM here and there on a building that had terrorists within it, but you wouldn't see them go and just continuously barrage the town over and over and over until everyone in it was dead and the buildings didn't even exist. Also, interesting note, we can actually see that partially constructed highway over here that was never completed, and the field in the distance that we saw on another video that the Russians had moved into. And it kind of gives you an idea of how small these front lines really are, because when you look at this map, you'll think that this area is actually kind of large. If we zoom out here, you'll think that this is pretty big, but you can see it all from a drone at around 600 feet up in the air. You can see all the way to one end of the Donetsk airfield, into Donetsk city itself, and all the way out to that field that we saw the Russians moving into about 4 days ago. And yes, I do know that Fallujah was the exception, but that one was a little different. That's insane. It's incredibly flat out there. You would think there would at least be a hill, a hill, but this land is almost as flat as Wyoming or Kansas. So with that, that's the end of that video, and you can see that the destruction is evident all throughout the town. But Pisky still stands, and Ukrainian soldiers, as of this moment, are still there defending that town, and that town will probably never fall. I hate to make clear statements like that, but I'm pretty certain that none of the towns, from Avdiivka all the way to Marinka, will collapse in the face of Russian assaults. However, the Russians would want you to think different. Today they claimed that they liberated Marinka, but the problem is that they haven't. The Ukrainians are still in the town. They're still defending the city, and the Russians have made no ground. So here's the video of them claiming they took the town when they clearly haven't, and they're just showing the destruction throughout the city. Also, this video appears to not be loading, so I hate to say it, but I won't be able to show it. But believe me, trust me, bro, on this one, that video does work. If y'all click on the link in the description below, it may work for y'all, but it unfortunately is not working for me. And so with that, we are now moving down the line to the area of Polochy, where we saw that a Russian supply unit was destroyed and picked off quite comfortably, actually. The Ukrainians took their time with this one and made sure to relish in the success. And so here's the video. When you see the artillery coming down, Russian supply trucks in the tree lines, and all hell breaking loose as the Russians are probably running in every single direction within the trees and trying to get away from the burning and exploding supply vehicles. Artillery round hit right on top of that Tiger armored car, knocking it out. Now you can see them all crowding around it, which is never a smart move. We now see one of the Russian armored vehicles trying to move down the road as fast as they can, but we all know that that usually doesn't end well. Now everyone in the Midwest is saying their state's flat. I do know. We drove through there, I know. I just wanted to pick a few. Ooh, did you see that, Matthew? That was a close call right there. Look at...
Let's see it again.
Goodness.
Oh, man.
Look at
so
that.
close.
Like 5 yards off. If it was just 5 yards forward, it would have hit the rear. Now you can see it veering off the road. It took a hard left. Everyone just got a concussion in that tank. And now they're doing, now they're drifting. Now they're going back to the road and taking a U-turn. They're now back on it, driving the other way, losing control. Artillery shells landing all around them. And it got hit, finally. And I have seen some people saying this is a repeat video. I have not seen this video before, as far as I can remember, but it may be an old one. I'm not entirely sure, but still, even if it is old, well, someone said a few days ago. If it's a few days ago, and it's kind of still relevant news. I never saw it before, so it's included in today's news. But with that, it's still great to see that the Ukrainians are smacking the living daylights out of Russian supply units, and that they are keeping the casualties climbing down here in the southern front. However, we have gotten a bit of perilous news from the Enerhodar nuclear power plant, as fires have broken out in the town and are rampaging almost uncontrolled, as we'll see in these two videos. We can see the Enerhodar firefighters, which have shown incredible gallantry and bravery throughout the entirety of this war, trying to tackle a large blaze that has taken over a parking lot within the Enerhodar closed city area. Well, that's the end of the video, but we also have a second perspective of these rampant fires that have broken out in Enerhodar, and we're not exactly sure why they have broken out. So you can see here that they are widespread and quite large, lighting up the entire block. And with that, that's the end of the video. And it's interesting to see that fires are now breaking out within the closed city. It's not as close to the nuclear reactor as you would think. The closed city is actually about a mile or two away, right over here. And the Enerhodar nuclear power plant pretty much takes up this entire area. At least the power and production facilities too, but the reactors are over here within these containment cells. So with that in mind, the fires aren't close, but it is still somewhat of a dangerous looking situation when you have rampant fires breaking out within the closed city itself. Do I see that correct, that an anonymous person sent in $500?
Correct. Yes, you were right.
Goodness
yes,
me.
Sir.
Yes, sir. 100, 100. Let's go. 100, 100. Laughing face. Let's see how far this has made it. Let me refresh my screen that shows me the fundraiser. And we have made it $14,192. We are $800 away from reaching the final goal of $15,000. We only have a little ways to go, $800 to reach $15,000. I'm not sure if we'll be raising it up to 20 because I have seen that it is starting to go a little bit slower, and I want to make sure that we do reach our goal instead of going too far and not being able to get to it. But with that, now that we've covered the Enodar nuclear power plant news, we're now going to be moving down to the Kherson front, where we've seen some more good news. Starting off in Novikakhovka, of course, it was hit again, and another base was hit and on fire. Here's that video.
Сейчас выключу, да. Короче, завода Сокола нету, все. Осталось одно здание и чуть-чуть соняшника. Все, внутри все точечно разбомбили. Ничего не осталось. И прилетело 5 снарядов. Веселимся мы. Так что вот так вот, ребята.
The HIMARS got another one. And with that, we're now moving out of Novikakhovka, and we're now going to be moving to the Kherson front. We saw on the more western side of the front lines that the Russians were leveled by the accurate fire of the 36th Marine Brigade. Paolo Corradini just threw in 200 euros to our fundraiser.
Dang, Enforcer, you're taking away from my segment.
I'm sorry. Also, by the way, everyone, just in case y'all didn't know, I'm kind of doing that because I pity Matthew tonight. He's actually not feeling that great. We're trying to get through that.
Enforcer, don't say that.
Well, yeah, but I want to let them know. That's why I'm kind of taking over in some places for him a little bit, and why he's a little bit more quiet, is because he's a trooper. He's trying to get through it, but I do understand he's not, I guess you could say, under the best weather. Anyways, with that, let's check out this footage from the 36th Marine Brigade. They got some good music playing. We can see them rolling down the roads. And the artillery slamming down. And the MLRS is peppering the entire area. And so with that, that's the end of the video. It is great to see that the 36th Marine Brigade is still laying down the fire down there in the Kherson area, but unfortunately we have not heard of any frontline changes. We are still waiting for that Ukrainian counterattack, and I feel like it's a long time coming, and when it does get here, it's going to be incredible. And so with that, we're now moving out of the Kherson front and down into Crimea, where we saw that a Pantsir AA system was once again activated in the area of Sevastopol as it tried to shoot down Ukrainian drones or missiles that were once again flying into the perimeter of the city. When you see the tracer fire from the Pantsir rocketing up into the sky as it unsuccessfully tries to shoot down whatever is coming its way. And y'all may have heard that I said that the Pantsir was unsuccessful in shooting down whatever was coming over Sevastopol. Y'all are probably wondering, what proof do you have, Enforcer? That sounds like propaganda. Propaganda, Enforcer. Where's your proof? Well, here's my proof of a picture of a Russian radar installation burning in the distance in Sevastopol this morning, meaning that whatever that Pantsir was shooting at was not shot down and it reached its target and blew it up. It's beautiful to see, and it's good to know that the Ukrainians are just obliterating the Russians wherever they may be. Even within Crimea now, they are no longer safe. And so with that, we are now moving to our last bit of news from the southern area of the country in the port city of Odessa, where we saw that a grain ship was being loaded today with that precious Ukrainian grain and will be making its way around the world to make sure that people do not starve because of the Russians. And look at all that grain. It's like sand. When you see a bird walking around the grain, that bird is lost in the sauce. Like, it's seen bird seeds. It's never seen this much grain. That thing is, like, just spazzing out down there, probably. And with that, that's the end of the video, and it's a beautiful thing to see that Ukrainian ships are still being loaded with grain and will be making their way out to the rest of the world to ensure that no one will starve because of the Russians and their criminal acts. And so with that, we've now covered every single bit of news from every area of the country today and around the world. And so we're now going to be moving to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Zelensky, but I have one last request of everyone. Right now, the fundraiser is at... Let me go to my live stream real quick and get the exact figure, because it shows it on the video, but I can't see it, actually, on my control board. So give me just a second, everyone. Before y'all leave, I have one request. Can we reach 15,000? I would love to see that happen before we have everyone leave for Zelensky's speech. So let me go view this on YouTube real quick. My live stream real quick and get the exact figure, because and y'all can probably hear that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That was trippy.
Let's see. So $14,701. We are $299 away from reaching that goal. Can we now we are $249 away. Thanks. Oh, we did it!
Yay!
Yeehaw!
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah!
We did it! We just reached $15,000, and my voice is about to explode. And so with that, I'm going to hand y'all over to the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 186 of the news, as we just blew through $15,000 in support for Save the Children. And so, without further ado, here's the speech from President Zelensky to round out the hype for the night, and Slava Ukraini!
Українки. Щороку в останні вихідні літа в нашій державі відзначалося два свята. Дуже тісно пов'язані. День міста Донецьк і День Шахтаря. В 2014 році через окупантів все змінилося для Донецька. А цьогоріч всій Україні не до свят. Але ми не забули і не забудемо про жодне своє місто і про жодну свою людину. Донецьк завжди був одним з найбагатіших і найсильніших міст України. Шахтарська праця завжди була однією з найбільш поважних професій. Зараз Донбас майже зруйнований російськими ударами, спустошений, гордий і славний український Донецьк принижений російською окупацією, пограбований. Росія принесла туди найстрашніше – абсолютне ігнорування цінності будь-якого життя, абсолютну неповагу до будь-кого. Окупанти принесли деградацію і загибель, і вірять, що вони там назавжди. Але вони тимчасово. А Україна повернеться. Обов'язково. Життя повернеться. Гідність людям Донбасу повернеться. Можливість жити повернеться. Можливість жити у безпеці і щасливо. Саме це буде символізувати наш український прапор, коли ми встановимо його в Донецьку, в Горлівці, в Маріуполі, в усіх містах Донбасу, при Азові, в усіх районах, які перебувають під російською окупацією. На Харківщині, на Запоріжжі, на Херсонщині і обов'язково в Криму. Україна все пам'ятає. Провів сьогодні нараду з представниками сектору оборони і безпеки, були керівники Збройних сил України, розвідки, Служби безпеки України, Міністерства внутрішніх справ та інших структур і напрямків захисту нашої держави. Всі питання, які ми розглядали, вони важливі, але закриті. Деталізувати я не можу. Але окупанти відчують її наслідки у подальших діях наших захисників. Жоден терорист не залишиться без відповіді за удари по наших містах. Запоріжжя, Оріхів, Харків, Донбас. За всіх вони отримують відповідь. Готуємось до нового тижня. Він буде дуже активним. Заплановані важливі візити партнерів в Україну. Поновлю практику звернень до держав і народів, які нас підтримують. А головне, працюємо, щоб були нові обмеження для Росії за війну і щоб були нові пакети підтримки для наших захисників, для нашої держави. Оборонна підтримка, зброя і снаряди, фінансова підтримка, політична, інформаційна підтримка нашої відбудови. Кожного дня кожен державний посадовець має демонструвати результат у своїй відповідальності. Тільки робота на результат дає право займати державні посади. Це мають пам'ятати усі, хто був наділений владою. Дякую всім, хто сумлінно працює на державу. Дякую всім нашим захисникам і захисницям. Слава нашим воїнам, слава нашому народу, слава Україні!
And Slava Ukraini, as Paul Fitzgerald just threw in $2,002 in support to the fundraiser, bringing it up to $17,000. I don't know about y'all, but this is worth playing the Ukrainian anthem over again right now. This is just unbelievable at this point. I'm blown away. And so we're running the anthem right now. This is unbelievable, actually.
Where's the anthem?
The anthem is playing right now, actually.
Oh, I can't hear
And what a night it's been, really. I mean, like, honestly, this is unbelievable. And I gotta say, huge thanks to all of our massive donors like Paul Fitzgerald, who are carrying this freaking thing tonight. This is insane. I'm blown away. Matthew, you're gonna have to take it from here. Do we have any polls? Do we want to recognize anyone? What do we got going on right now?
So, I don't think I have any polls at the moment, but we do have a lot of top donors that we have to recognize. Paul Fitzgerald gets another shout out. He put in a $1,001 donation, and then like 10 seconds afterward, another $1,001 donation. So Paul, damn, that is very generous of you. Very, very generous. And I know Paul's been around for a very long time, so just huge thanks to Paul for that. And also, we have a $200 donation from Paolo Corradini that the enforcer mentioned earlier. We also have a $150 donation from Irvin, as well as a $100 donation from Mike Sr., and another one from Eric Bouchot. And then we have three $50 donations. We have one from Michael Tichonik, one from WL, and John Webster. So big thanks to all of you. And also, we want to make sure that we give credit to Anonymous, everybody that has thrown in support of the fundraiser without putting their name. Thank you very much to you as well. And also, thank you to everyone who has thrown in any amount, small or large. Even the smaller ones add up. And we are now up to $17,000 on the fundraiser.
And also, I actually saw someone real quick because, of course, we try and make sure that we're as transparent as possible with our fundraisers. Joe Bovovich actually asked, where's the money going to? Excellent question. I want to make sure to answer that real quick because I don't think a lot of people understand the YouTube Give system. And so I want to make sure that if you've never heard about it until now, you understand what's going on here. So the YouTube Give system allows creators like me, once you reach a certain amount of subscribers, I believe it's like 10,000 subscribers, YouTube allows creators like myself to run fundraisers through their program. If you run a YouTube Give program, you can only pick nonprofits under their GuideStar platform, and GuideStar ensures that they have a running track record. In fact, real quick, because I actually think this adds a lot to it, let me show y'all this. This is my YouTube creator page. This is the actual account that you know, like I have, and I run all my videos and upload stuff in here. And here's all of the accounts we've ever run for a fundraiser. We can't touch a single buck of this stuff. We can only see the figure, and YouTube does the rest. They cover 100% of the fees. So if you send in $100, there's none of that deducted. 100 of your dollars will be going straight to that nonprofit that you sent it into. So that's where the money's heading. It goes directly to these organizations, and I consider YouTube Give to be the best way to raise funds on YouTube. It provides a lot of validity to the viewers. They know it's safe because YouTube is pretty much contractually bound to ensuring that they keep up their end of the deal, like they explain the YouTube Give system to be. And y'all have I have exact accounting. Unfortunately, it doesn't show the stuff to y'all, but I have exact accounting to know how many dollars and how many cents even that we've raised, exactly where it's going, and it's all safe, nice, and tidy. There's absolutely no way this stuff can be touched, and I find it to be incredible. And I sometimes sit here and look at all of these figures because I'm like, this is insane. Look at all of these. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. We've run 26 fundraisers. 26 of them, and they're all right here. It literally goes from the very first time we were able to run a fundraiser on this channel to today, and this is just the craziest thing to me. And of course, I love that YouTube makes this to where it's as transparent as possible, and it's incredibly safe for y'all to do, because there's a lot of people out there that are trying to skim the system. So with that, I hope that answers that question for you real quick, and I hope that does give you confidence if you ever do help to raise funds on these fundraisers in the future to donate, because I want everyone to know that this is an incredibly safe way to do it. I believe it's really the only surefire safe way to fundraise on YouTube at all. But with that, we're now going to move on to the questions.
In Enforcer, real quick, I saw a Stry Catharsis saying in the live chat, holy crap, was that a $50,000 fundraiser? And yes, it was. I think it was for Doctors Without Borders, wasn't it?
Let me go find it real quick. Where is it? Yes.
That was way back too. That was early on when I just started on the channel. Actually, we had that $50,000 fundraiser, which is our largest one in channel history. And then I think we had a $30,000 fundraiser that was the next smaller one beyond that.
Yes, so just to go over this again real quick, since we are on here, the largest one we ever did was $52,811.36. Honestly, a massive achievement. Operator Starsky was on for that one, and I believe it was just Operator Starsky. Funker 530 was on another one. And if we click edit, we can actually go through, and it shows you all the information. It shows you the EIN number, the nonprofit it was raised for. We can click continue and add the details, which is the little thank you message, and also the description that I wrote down for it. And then you can set the goal. The goal that night got up to $50,000. It was absolutely insane. It was a crazy night. It just kept on going. It was rocketing up. We got to like $5,000 before the stream even started, I think, or $10,000. It was an insane night. It actually, crazily enough, y'all, this was the day before the May 9th Victory Day Parade, which I did not think about until I just looked at that date, because it ended on May 9th at midnight. Well, actually, it ended on May 8th at midnight before May 9th could begin. But that's honestly insane. Also, the next biggest one we had was... We actually had a couple of $30,000 ones. But the next biggest one, I believe it was for... UNHCR, which was misspelled on that one, but it didn't matter because we still raised a massive amount of... Wait a minute, no. It's actually Revived Soldiers of Ukraine that got $34,604, and then the third largest one was for UNHCR that got $34,135. These, for me, this is like the trophy room on my YouTube channel, because I come in here and I look at this, and this, every single bit of it, all the time, the effort and everything was put in for this. And this is the end result of it all, right here on this one sheet. And I hope that y'all are as proud of this as I am, because every single dollar of this shows how much dedication and care we have as the Leaf Spring Army into taking care of Ukraine and trying to help them out as much as possible. And so with that, I'm now going to take this back off screen. I hope that kind of gave y'all a good look. And in case if some of y'all were questioning, you know, some things about it, I hope that explains how YouTube Give works and also adds a lot of validity to it, because that's one thing. Oh, that's fine. And Matthew's sick, by the way. I already said that, but that's one thing I find incredibly important is validity. I like, because if I was a viewer and I was about to support a fundraiser, I would like to know, where are the funds? Where are they going? How much of that actually ends up making it to the nonprofit or whoever it's supposed to be going for? And so I'm trying to make sure that I do that for y'all as well and let y'all know all of that information up front. So once again, hope y'all are fairly confident with that. And we're now going to be moving into the questions. Since Matthew is sick and this is a Sunday night fundraiser, we're probably only going to run the question segment until 12:30 Eastern time or 11:30 our time. And so with that, let's get on to that first question of the night.
So first up, we have a pretty commonly asked question. We have it from Turn Off Your Gaslight and LT Head, who says, Enforcer, have any of the charities reached out to you and thanked you personally?
Unfortunately, no. A lot of people have been saying that they should reach out to me. I should be on the news. I should meet President Zelensky. None of that's really happened, and honestly, it would be incredible. It would be wonderful if it did happen, if people did say thanks or something to me, you know, because because while I do this work and I don't ask for any thanks at all off of it, I just fundraise because I care, and that's really the end of it. It is always nice to get thanks, and I always consider this to be the shining thing that I've done so far in my life. Never before have I done this much to help out in anything before, and so this is a huge thing to me. But still, I did it because I wanted to. I never went into this fundraising stuff or the YouTube channel as a whole to try and get any kind of brownie points or anything like that. I just did it to do it. So with that, I hope that answers the question LT had. And if someone does, if Zelensky invites me over to Kyiv, great, I'll go over there. I'll take the medal. I'll say thanks. I'll also say you're a pretty cool dude. I admire you for staying here at the beginning of the war and also for cheerleading for the whole entire country. And then I'll go home. And if anyone does give me thanks, I'll just say, hey, thanks. That's nice. I appreciate it. And then just move on. So with that, I hope that answers the question. And we are on to the next one.
And also, thank you to all of you for the get well wishes. Hopefully I'm better by tomorrow and it's not something that gets serious, but I doubt it. I think it's just something that's just temporary, hopefully. But anyways, thank you all for those well wishes. And moving on to our next question, we have one from Tasman006. Excuse me, I'm trying to hold in a cough real quick. When do you think the Ukrainians will take Kherson? They seem to be so close.
Oh, they are close. They are within miles of Kherson. My front line is not entirely accurate, however, I do know that. But once again, I do have to say this because this is something we don't say a lot, and I think some viewers may be under the misconception of. Our front line isn't supposed to be accurate down to the T. It's supposed to be accurate based off of verifiable video and picture evidence of where Russian forces are. For example, we adjusted our front line today to make sure to show that the Wagner unit is in Kodyma. So we moved the front line there because we got video and picture evidence showing the Wagner group there. And that's why sometimes some people will say stuff like, hey man, your front line is not accurate in these places because so-and-so on their front line showed this. That's the reason why, is because while that may have been in an official report or it may have been noted somewhere pretty much just through writing alone, we vet our stuff as best we can to make sure that if we are reporting something, it can be backed up with something out there. And so we always rely on video and picture evidence. So with that, I hope that does answer why our front line is not accurate in Kherson in a way. But even with that in mind, I do think it will be soon that the Ukrainians push through Kherson. The fall is coming. It's an excellent time for the Ukrainians to begin an offensive. And also, they are within a very short distance, and Russian supply lines are weaker now than they've ever been in that area. And so I do think it will be soon. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a more of a comment from BC Skyman, who says, Matt and the Enforcer, I've spent 3 hours talking to a Ukrainian man and his wife that just arrived in America 2 weeks ago. He is an IT specialist. He has some very interesting info.
And make sure to try and have him reach out to me and share that information with me. Tell him it's totally okay to DM me on Discord, because if he has anything that would be good to know, I would like to know it. And so thank you so much once again, BC Skyman, for always being here and also being incredibly helpful. Make sure to have him reach out to me, or you can reach out to me and relay the information, because I would like to know it. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you for giving me the heads up, BC.
And also to all the Australians on the stream, sadly, y'all can't donate because of some kind of law from your country that doesn't allow it. But we wish you could donate, and it's nothing on our end, and we just want to let everybody know that so nobody thinks that we're targeting Australia or anything like that, because we have quite a few Australians on the stream. So just a little info on that. And moving on to our next question, we have one from Shannon Jane, who says, question for both of you. Is the U.S. constraining Ukraine to avoid Russian tactical nukes? U.S. can control HIMARS, but not Ukrainian tanks and planes streaming into Crimea, etc.
I think right now we're seeing the war develop the best it can. And a lot of people are saying that, oh, you know, the U.S. is trying to slow the Ukrainians down, or we're trying to make the war go on incredibly long. And one just have to remember that right now, in the scale of things, this is actually a pretty short war. World War II and World War I went on for 4 to 5 years total. We were in Afghanistan for 20 years. We were involved in Iraq for more than a decade. And so whenever people start saying that we're trying to deliberately drag the war on, I would say that if the war had gone on for 5 years or more. But right now, with it only going on for a little over 6 months, I don't think we're trying to drag the war out. We're giving as much support to Ukraine as we possibly can. I just think that even though the Ukrainians are by far way better than the Russians, it's still difficult to deal with just the absolute mass that the Russian military has put in Ukraine. There's something like probably around 250,000 troops in there, and the Ukrainians are pretty evenly matched, at least in the terms of numbers of soldiers there. And so I think that may be what's causing this war to go on a little bit longer, because make no mistake, while the United States has not provided all the support that we have pledged and, you know, have given through budgeting and, you know, presidential decree, at the same time, we're giving a massive amount. And for Ukraine, we've given already an actual support that's arrived 3 times their annual budget over the past half year. So with that, I hope that does answer the question in a way, because I honestly do not think this has been a long war. In the overarching context of history, this is a rather short one. And so with that, we are on to the next one. I hope that answers that question fairly well, in my opinion, with a little bit of precedent.
And real quick, I saw BC Skyman say in the chat that he went to the Discord but does not have permission to send messages. So BC, what you have to do is click the little green checkbox on the welcome message, and then you'll be allowed in to send messages. And also, make sure you're in a Discord channel that allows you to actually comment, because sometimes you'll go to the announcements tab and it won't allow you to comment. So hopefully that helps. And moving on to our next question, we have one from Mr. Shipwright, who says, why doesn't the U.S. send over land-based CRAM to help guard Ukrainian cities?
I believe that we're not sending over a lot of air defense systems right now, because some of them may be, and he said CRAM? Let me make sure he said that correct.
Yes, that automated gun on the ground.
I think that's a CIWS. Wait a minute, no, it's a CRAM. Wait a minute, it's a CRAM, but the CRAM is a CIWS, which is a close-in weapon system, I believe. Or that's different, is it? Let me pull that up. CIWS, because I don't want to say anything that sounds stupid. So the Phalanx CIWS is the close-in weapon system. They look similar, but they do look.
Who makes that?
Let's see. The
General Dynamics.
Part of General Dynamics Corporation, Pomona division, later a part of Raytheon. So right now it seems like they're being manufactured by Raytheon.
I see.
And it uses the 20mm Vulcan cannon that, oh wow, that's cool. The 20mm Vulcan cannons that are mounted on F-16s and F-15s, which I did not know. That's actually news to me.
Now, if any of y'all haven't seen this thing in action, it's absolutely incredible how this thing targets. It's very fast with the way it moves around and gets its target, and also just launches a ton of like tracer rounds or something like that. Maybe the enforcement might pull up a video.
And we will, but I have to say something real quick. Pale Rider just sent in $100. That threw us over $18,000. Right now, if I pull up the video again, we are at $18,018. Golly.
Dang.
We're at 18,000. I wonder if we're getting to 20 tonight. We might get to 20 before the end of the stream tonight. But let me pull up a CIWS and show that. I think, hopefully someone can answer this. CRAM is land-based, CIWS is ship-based. So thank you very much for clarifying that, KPX. And let's pull up a video of a CIWS in action. Also, check out the Enforcer stream. It's a nice one. He's running a fundraiser right now. Anyways, let's get to the actual video. This is from Air Source Military with 14 million views from 7 years ago, and they run ads. Goodness me.
Air Source Military is a good channel. They have good clips.
I haven't watched him a lot, actually.
Yes. Firepower.
You know, I never thought about the Navy using the CIWS against Somali pirates, but that seems like it would actually be a smart call. I never thought about that until right then. But that thing is impressive.
Now, Enforcer, go back and click video of it firing from the ground at night, because that's where it's really impressive.
Let's see, CRAM.
Let's see, there it is down there, firing at enemy drones in Afghanistan.
Ah, yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, I've seen this
there
one
we go.
before.
That's the cool one.
This one's cool. Honestly, it looks like Godzilla's like fire breath nearly. It's just insane looking.
Nice. That's so sick.
I agree. Jinx. We now see one up close.
That is what Ukraine needs.
They need that, yeah. That would be cool.
Raytheon, you might want to donate a few. It'd look good.
How can you not feel safe with these things around? They're literally just laying out walls of lead in the sky, shooting down whatever is up there.
Hopefully that sound in the background doesn't make anybody upset.
Man. The might of the American military is impressive.
Fuck yeah!
I like the concise little F. Yeah, let's go back and listen to that.
Fuck yeah!
I like that. Here's another one. Man, just impressive.
Now, Enforcer, how much does one cost? I saw somebody asking in the live chat.
I don't really know. Let's go find out. General dynamics, blah, 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 blah. We're looking for the cost. We're looking for the cost. Where are the costs? 416 million.
Whoa.
So it's a costly system, but it is an effective system. And so with that in mind, what's the range on this thing? Let's see, rate of fire, effective firing range. Maximum firing range is about 5.5 kilometers, but its effective firing range is of 1.5 kilometers. So honestly, while it's an impressive system, I think there could be better out there because it's incredibly expensive and it has a short range.
And I see it uses the M61 Vulcan, so it sounds like an A10 Warthog, but the A10 uses the what's it called? Gaw
it's
Avenger,
like the
I
Gaw
believe.
8 Avenger. Yeah, it's like a 30 mil.
Yes.
But one thing interesting here, Matthew, that you may not know is that the 20 mil is mounted onto a lot of aircraft. So here's one inside of a German F-104 Starfighter. And these things are in a lot. I think they're actually in every single American aircraft that's not the A-10. The F-16 has one. The F-15 has one. I believe... Let me think about the other aircraft the U.S. uses. The F-22, I think, has one of these. Let me actually pull that up, because that would be crazy if the F-22 uses a 20mm Vulcan. Let me check, though. Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor. Let's scroll all the way down to the bottom, and let's see here. Yep, there it is. The M61 Vulcan. It's on the F-22, too.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty cool, actually. So anyways, with that, I hope that kind of answers the question a little bit and at least gives a very good look at what that system is like. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, real quick, just to answer this, we don't want to get too deep down the rabbit hole, but I do like the CRAM quite a bit. Somebody said, how does it aim? I think it's completely automated. It has a laser-guided system on the top that detects where the threat is coming from, and it automatically moves the turret to hit it and intercept it. And it does a really complex algorithm to determine where the threat is going. So it's really complex, actually, but man, that is a hell of a price tag on that thing. But I could see where it'd be worth it.
Well,
but anyways,
the U.S. military certainly doesn't have to worry about the price tag because once again, we have a budget of $770 billion per year, and throwing one or two of those things onto an Arleigh Burke class destroyer is no sweat for the U.S. military, but it would be for a country like Ukraine or Russia. Those things are incredibly expensive. But with that, we are on to the next one.
Up next, we have a question from Richie MC, who says, Enforcer, has the stalemate turned the opinion of support from Ukraine in American? Last Axios poll has support on Ukraine as a slim majority, and 18% is against supporting Ukraine.
With polls like that, got to take them with a grain of salt because a lot of polls are just made up. And because just look at the past 8 years of your life and think about all the times that statistics and polls showed one thing and it turned out a totally different way. Polls are made up, and so I don't know if that one's true or not, and I don't think support has waned for Ukraine because look at this live chat. Look at the amount of people who have gotten on the stream tonight, which is the same amount that we've gotten ever since the first month of the war, and that shows me, especially with the amount we've raised on the fundraiser tonight, that support in the United States and around the world has not died. It's as strong now as it was at the beginning. That's just my opinion, though, so take it with a grain of salt, but I do think that a lot of people still support Ukraine and are still into this war. And so with that, we are on to the next one. I hope that answers that question fairly well.
And also, folks, we want to make a quick correction. That $400 million figure was actually for the development of the weapon. They actually cost 10 to 15 million each, depending on how you spec it out.
Oh, really?
So actually not that bad, really. 10 million to 15 million each in the scheme of equipment is not that bad.
That's actually incredibly cheap. That's really, when you think about a weapon like that. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and next up we have a question from Island Times, who says, sorry I can't donate from Australia, but what's the latest on the nukes going from Russia to Crimea and Belarus?
We haven't heard about any nukes arriving in Crimea from the Russians. We have heard about Belarus getting nuclear-capable aircraft, which is concerning, but we don't have any official confirmation yet that there are nuclear weapons that are in Belarus's hands. So with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
All right, and next up we have a question from What Else Happened, who says, why do the Russians hate Ukraine so much? I've read much Russian history and cannot figure it out.
Well, the reason why the Russians hate the Ukrainians a whole bunch is the same reason that the Germans back in the 40s hated the Poles and all of the Eastern Europeans. There really is no reason. It's just that for some reason the animosity and the hate just built up over time. And I really can't explain it to you because the Cossacks originally were poorer Russians that kind of like just migrated out of Russia for the large part and into the area of Ukraine and then just started living there. And of course there were people living in Ukraine before those people came in, but then all of them started to create this Cossack culture, which kind of came to be in the 1600s, mid to late 1600s. And so with that, I would have to say I don't really know. I really honestly cannot explain to you how it happened. It just kind of did. And I know that's not a good answer. So with that, I hope that kind of answered the question in a way. And also, I saw someone earlier saying I'm going to have a heart attack with all the grains of salt I give out. And I give out a lot of grains of salt because I don't know everything. And I don't want people to think that I am always an expert or I think I am a know-it-all because sometimes I do get things wrong. So whenever I think that there may be leeway for something to be corrected, I always just say take it with a grain of salt. So that way someone in the live chat doesn't just get their underwear in a wad because I sat there and said something like it's true. Because even with me saying take it with a grain of salt as much as I do, I'll see a couple of comments in my comment section go, oh, the enforcer thinks he knows everything. He's just so smart. And I don't. I make that very clear. But with that, I hope that kind of addresses why I do it. I know you're just saying that as a joke, but I wanted to explain it. So with that, we're on to the next one.
And also, I just got a message from BC Skyman on Discord, so it looks like he made it in. Hopefully. I'll have to check your message in just a moment. But anyways, let's see here. Since the Enforcer is talking about grains of salt, our next live stream on Tuesday is going to be the reduced sodium edition, so please stay tuned. But anyways, moving on to our next one. That was a really cheesy joke. Yeah. But anyways.
No, really, moving on to our next joke, honestly.
Oh, damn. But anyways, our next one is from Unknown. He says, when can we expect Ukraine to give us a return on our aid? This year alone, the U.S. and EU have donated $60.7 billion in military, financial, and humanitarian aid. What can we expect in return, and when? And I'll have to say, to begin with, I think that's the wrong question to be asking, because we shouldn't expect anything in return. We're simply sending it as aid, and simply keeping Ukraine democratic and free is enough return in my book.
I don't think we will be asking for too much of a return, and usually whenever we provided military aid before to a country, monetary or support-wise, we usually make it incredibly lenient for them to pay it off. For example, Britain finally paid off their Lend-Lease debts to the United States in like 2010, I believe, from World War II. So it kind of gives you an idea of how lax that kind of stuff really is. It's just kind of a pay it back whenever you feel sort of thing. But with the Ukraine in particular, I don't really feel like we will be. Ooh, Johnny Wishbone.
Johnny Wishbone throwing in that 400 Canadian.
Goodness. Thank you, Johnny, for helping out all of those kids. We don't know how many kids that would have supported. I wish we could have gotten a figure for that, but unfortunately I couldn't find one on their website. But I'm sure that helped out loads of Ukrainian children that are in pretty precarious situations right now. So everyone give a huge thanks to Johnny Wishbone, who was our most recent massive donor. But with that, we're now going to move back to answering that question. And what was it again?
Excuse me. But anyways, the question was... it was that one about expecting a return on our aid that we sent.
Oh, I don't think we'll be getting a return on it, because this is not really something that we're doing for the hell of it or anything. This is something we're doing because it's in our strategic interests, and so I feel like we won't be too fervent on getting that back, and we'll be trying to make Ukraine as much a chum as ours as possible. And so we will be just going, you know what, forget about paying us back, and you know what, here's a couple of extra $1 billion to help rebuild the country, and welcome to our team, welcome to the US team, which is usually incredibly lenient in giving out money. Because one thing I gotta mention, everyone always acts like the U.S. is a negative force when going around the world. If it wasn't for the U.S.'s involvement in Japan and South Korea in post-World War II, South Korea, Seoul would not look the way it does. And while this is a huge credit to the Koreans, and of course their rebound kind of came around the 80s, still, Korea, the way it looks, would not be the way it is without a large amount of U.S. support. The U.S. is a giant money bag. It just flings money around wherever. And a lot of people in the United States, this is always the gripe that I've always heard. Why in the world is the U.S. giving $80 billion to so-and-so when they could be using it to feed the poor or the homeless? And then a lot of these people... whenever it's actually being given to the poor and the homeless, why the hell don't they get a job? Because that's what everyone goes to at some point. But still, the United States just throws money around whenever and wherever, and we're kind of in that position right now. Much like the British during the mid to late 1800s and also the early 1900s, were kind of in the position of being Mr. Moneybags and flowing money around everywhere. The United States kind of rose to that position in the 40s, and from then on, we've kind of been the person who has to take up the tab. So with that, I hope that kind of addresses that for a second, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and next up, we have a question from Tyler Richardson, who says, Enforcer, when will NATO get more involved physically?
Unfortunately, I can't really give you a straight answer on that one, because it kind of depends. Right now, it seems like NATO will never get physically involved. If the nuclear power plant goes south, NATO could get involved then. It could also get involved on its own bequest, just if anything happens to the Baltic states or Poland, or if Finland, something happened with them. So with that... I can't really tell you. It's kind of an unascertainable answer right now, and I hate to say it. I know that a lot of people don't like this, but I'm going to have to declare ignorance on that one, and we're going to move on to the next one. And also another thing about the United States, real quick to say this. I know that I said the United States flings money around, and a lot of countries can credit their success to being on the American Dream Team, but at the same time, a lot of that success has come from these countries within. South Korea was actually far worse off than North Korea until the 80s, when the dictatorship in South Korea was finally overthrown and a democracy came into being. And also the Olympics came around the same time, and somehow the Olympics actually had a massive catalyst in South Korean culture into propelling them into being an incredibly modern first world country. But moving beyond all of that stuff with Korea, I honestly don't think it's a gripe for the United States to do something like that. Some country out there has to consider itself the leader of its sphere. Or otherwise, you don't have a sphere. And because of that, you have to throw out money to everyone to keep them going and keep them prosperous. Because if they're prosperous, you're prosperous. Especially in the U.S.'s position with the kind of economy we have to pretty much ensure that economic stability and prosperity is going on everywhere else in the world, so that way it can all come back to us. You know, it's kind of like investing a bit. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Giorgio. Jev, something like that. I'm not really sure how to pronounce your name, but Georgie says, how much would it cost to produce such bomblets as the ones we see usually drop from the UAVs?
Unfortunately, I can't get you an exact number on that, but I would at least say it's less than $80 most likely. Those bomblets are not expensive to make. I can't actually tell you the parts of it, how it's made, and how much all that stuff costs, because then YouTube may consider that me telling y'all how to do something that would be against the terms of service, and then they might give me a strike. So unfortunately, I can't tell you exactly what they're made of, how much those parts would cost, but I would say less than $80 most likely. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question. We are on to the next one.
And folks, I'm going to redo that poll. It was a little confusing. I'm trying to make it fit within the character limit that they give me, but it's kind of a complex question. It's kind of hard to do that. But anyways, moving on to our next one, we have a question from Christian Cruz, who says, last week, the UK sent 2 Eurofighters over Snake Island. Is that too provocative?
No, it's not provocative at all. I believe that would be over... Actually, considering that's a Ukrainian island, I believe that would be over Ukrainian airspace. I'm not really sure, but I don't really find that too provocative, because it is the Black Sea, and you kind of have a right to fly down there. And honestly, if a Western country deems it, or if any country deems that they want to do something like that, there's really nothing to say that they're going too far. So with that, I hope that answers the question, and we're on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a question from Cody Nelson, who says, a few weeks ago, you showed a graph that depicted that Russia was only using troops from outlying cities. Has that changed?
That has not changed as far as our information goes. A lot of them still come from the far reaches of Russia, mostly in the east, in the Siberian areas, or more towards the Ural areas like Yekaterinburg, Perm, Nizhny Novgorod, Kazan, Chelyabinsk, and others. And so with that, I hope that answers your question, and we're on to the next one.
Excuse me, I was trying to unmute my mic. But anyways, up next we have a question from Douglas Nyquist, who says, Enforcer, with the sentiment of the Russians being positive towards Ukrainian genocide, will the Russians use chemical or biological weapons before a tactical?
I believe that the Russians would probably use chemical or biological weapons before a nuclear bomb. It seems like it would be the most logical escalation of the conflict. But if they did, the United States would get directly involved. So I think with that in mind, the Russians may consider those all the same level. The same level of escalation of conflict. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question in a way, and we are on to the next one. And also, I just heard someone say we are 500 away from 19K, and we are 500 away from 19K. So if we get another $500, we're at $19,000 and $1,000 away from 20. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a question from, actually, we have a question from, let's see, looking for the one I was just looking at. Question from Bass Girl, who says, Enforcer, what started the hatred by Russia in the... Oh, hold on here. Bass Girl meant to say, what started the hatred by Russia toward the Ukrainian people?
I can't really tell you what it was for certain. I hate to say that. I like to be as versed in history as possible, but I can't really tell you the time where the Russians started to develop their hatred for the Ukrainians. It just kind of started to slowly coalesce once the Russians marched into the area the Russian Empire did in the 1700s, and they took it over. And from then on, it just seemed like there was this kind of a racism against the Ukrainians. I can't really explain it rather than that. So with that, I hope that kind of gives an explanation as to when it started, sometime in the 1700s. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from... Dang, I just lost that one too. I don't know what's going on with the live chat. But anyways, we have a question from WNNR1957, who says, Enforcer, how will the world know if captured Ukrainian soldiers are being slaughtered in concentration camps? Not sure how we confirm that if Russia is not saying that it is happening.
We can usually confirm that by satellite footage. The United States and Britain was able to confirm that there were operational concentration camps in Germany through spies that actually saw them at a distance. And so I believe that we could probably confirm that through satellite film. You've got to remember that the United States can literally see everything the Russians are doing day by day, hour by hour, due to our satellites that orbit the world every 15 minutes and photograph massive swaths of Russia. And so we have up-to-date news and information on every single thing that happens in Russia. And so if there were concentration camps that were being set up, we would probably see them on satellite footage. The U.S. government may have already seen them. They may be keeping them quiet. They kind of did that with the concentration camps in World War II because they didn't want to, radicalize the public, because if you do that, then they could go around as mobs and start killing German Americans here in the United States, and that could be a whole problem. So that's the reason why they didn't do it then. The Russians may have those camps now, and the United States may not be telling us about it. So with that, I hope that kind of answers the question in a way, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, folks, I fixed the wording on the poll to be a little bit more clear. And also, this question is about as clear as it gets. Either you think we should continue to help our global allies and global police, or we should back out of that. So feel free to vote in the poll. It's an interesting one and kind of ties into what the enforcer was talking about a moment ago. Oh wow, Johnny Wishbone puts in another $650 Canadian. Let's go.
Let's
yes,
go.
Sir.
Wishbone. Let's go, Wishbone. And we just reached ... $19,027. So we are now $1,000, less than $1,000 away from 20K. We can reach it. We can do it. Folks like Johnny Wishbone give me hope. And so with that, thank you so much once again to the Lee Spring Army. We've reached the next $1,000. Yeah! And we're on our way to 20. And so with that, we're on to the next question. And honestly, if you're okay with it, Matthew, maybe we'll want to stay around until we reach 20.
Let's see. Yeah, I'll be fine with that.
All right. And so with that, we're on to the next one. And also, by the way, just as a motivator to y'all, if y'all want Matthew, as sickly and feeble as he is right now, to get off and have some sleep, make sure for us to reach 20K, and we'll get off once we get there. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and the next one is from Cat Nico, who says, what's the chance that one of Russia's nukes in cold storage just goes off? 50-year-old tech is not that reliable.
It isn't reliable, but one thing I would say is that we've never had a nuclear bomb go off by accident here in the United States. We've lost them, yes, but they've never gone off by accident. And so in this instance, I would have to say, I don't think a nuclear bomb would go off on accident in Russia unless if it was sabotage. So with that, I hope that does answer the question, and we're on to the next one.
All right, and next up we have a question from Karen Vaughn, who says, does Russia have satellites too? And yes, they do.
Yes, Russia does have satellites, but I don't think they have as many as the United States. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
And also, real quick, I'm going to go over the poll that I put up. The question was, should the USA back out of global policing or continue to uphold our agreements? 89% say we need to uphold our agreements, and 11% say no, we need to stop world policing. Now, for me, I would have to say that at this point, the United States is so deep into policing the globe that we really can't back out, because if we were to do that, we'd be leaving a vacuum, and somebody like China is going to jump in and take our place, and we don't want that because they're trying to, usurp us as the global world power. So, Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
Actually, they follow yours fairly well, but I'm going to try and flesh mine out as much as possible. One thing that a lot of people don't get, because, and I'm not saying that I'm on some kind of celestial plane or something, I understand it all, but one thing that a lot of people don't get is that the world is a competition. Each country is like a company. And when I say company, I don't mean a company like Amazon. I mean a company as in a group of people who are operating this enterprise in their best interests. Every single country is like that. And so every country is trying to climb to the top of the totem pole. First, they try and make sure that they have economic prosperity. Once they have economic prosperity, they then try and grow that until they are the undefeated economic powerhouse of the world. For a while, that would have been the Chinese, at least in Asia, because Asia, well, we won't go over that. There's a whole thing for history. Anyways, moving on. in Europe, for a while, France was the dominant power. Then Spain became the dominant power in the Age of Exploration. Then, after a while, the British became the dominant power, although there was a little bit of a balance in between France, Spain, and Britain. And then and each time when I'm saying these things, keep in mind, each time one of these countries is in charge and kind of in power, their purse flows. The money is going everywhere. They're supporting mercenaries, exploration groups. They're doing anything and everything in their power to continue to make sure that their sphere grows. Then in the modern day, we saw, as the most recent, the British were the dominant world power up until the United States took over around the 40s and the 50s. Back then, it wasn't like it is today, because in the modern day, empires do kind of exist. The Russians and the Chinese are both trying to have their own empires. The United States, in a way, is a bit of an empire. If you want to call it the quasi-definition of an empire, we have a lot of say and control over many countries in the world. That includes most of Europe, Canada, some bits of South America. We kind of leave South America alone. That's a whole story on its own, though. We control a decent amount of East Asia, Australia, New Zealand. That's kind of our realm, our domain, our empire in a way. It's not that we, subjugate them or anything. It's just that we have such economic control and economic connections with these countries that they largely just do what the United States does. Everyone just mirrors the larger country, much like all the countries that are economically tied to China do, much like all of the countries that are economically tied to the Russians, which are most of the Stand series countries. And so, in that regard, we, as the leaders of our sphere, in kind of like what I'm saying, our quasi-empire, we have to make sure that we are constantly leading at the forefront. If we don't, who in the world is going to do it? There's no other economic power within our sphere large enough to take over for us. The Germans are incredibly successful, along with the Japanese and the British, but they're not as big as the United States economically to do the kind of things we do. The Chinese, on the other hand, are, and the Chinese could slowly, without there being any kind of, I guess you could say, domain going on right there, could start to seep their way in. So it's kind of a bit of a massive game. I guess you could call it like a game of Risk, but played through economics instead of through direct war, that the whole entire world plays. And so in that regard, I would have to say the United States has to uphold their agreements, because we have created this domain of prosperity that most of our viewers live in, including us, as being Americans. And so we have an obligation to make sure that everyone keeps on living the high life. So with that, we are on to the next one. I hope that kind of answers that fairly well. Hopefully, if there's anything that was misconstrued, I'll make sure to try and go back and clear it up, just in case if anyone was like, wait a minute, what do you mean by that? So with that, we're on to the next one.
And I'll have to say, folks, on my part, I kind of liked it back when the United States wasn't so involved with everything that happened around the globe. But like I mentioned earlier, we've gotten in too deep now to simply back out, and we've inspired people like China, like I was mentioning earlier, to start replicating what we did. So now that China has the same sort of track record and sort of imitating what we did to become powerful, it's just impossible to back out. And also, when you see atrocities happening like Ukraine, it's hard just to sit back and sit by while that goes on and not do anything about it.
But one thing that's incredibly interesting about China is that the United States wouldn't do what the Chinese did exactly. We would fling money everywhere, but the Chinese give loans, which is one of the most interesting things ever, is that they'll give a loan to build a railway. Like, for example, if y'all have ever heard about it, they gave a loan to Uganda to build a railway through the country. The Ugandans could never pay back this loan. Actually, China's kind of like a massive loan shark in a way. They give out loans that they know will never be able to be repaid, and then these countries are forever in economic debt to China, and then China has a large say in what they do, because then they could go, well, you've defaulted on our loan, we're going in. Which I don't think they will ever do in the near future, at least within the next decade, but that is kind of the model that they've been empire growing off of. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next one, I want to recognize a couple of donations here. We have a $69 donation from David Rockin 1 and a $100 donation from DC Williams. So thank you very much to both of you for your support of the fundraiser. And moving on to our next question, we have one from M90 Regal Grand Sport, who says, Enforcer, when Ukraine has the Donbass back and Crimea also back, how long does the Western world leave the sanctions enforced against Russia?
I believe we will, I think honestly, we'll kind of treat them like Iran. and we will probably keep the sanctions in place forever because we don't have any economic ties to the Russians anymore. And you know, they're okay. Now that's a bit of a stretch for me to say. That's not necessarily true. The European Union has massive ties to the Russians still because they rely a lot on their oil and gas. But let's just say that we, the United States, started to wean them off of Russian oil and gas, and we started to tap into our oil and gas reserves in the U.S. and start to feed the Europeans with that. Then no one really has a reason to be economically tied with Russia, and so the sanctions would probably stay in place forever. That's kind of a long con game, and I don't think the United States right now is focusing on the long con, and so based off of that reason, I think the sanctions will probably be lifted after several months or a couple of years after the war ends. And so with that, I hope that answers the question, and we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Cakes Boo, who says, Enforcer, who's in control on the nuclear in Ukraine people right now?
Can you reread that again?
Let's see. I'm trying to decipher what they meant. I don't think they're an English speaker, so let me see here. Who's in control on the nuclear in Ukraine people right now? So I think they're asking, if I had to take a stab at it, who's in charge of the nuclear power plant right now? Is it the Ukraine people or Russia?
Right now with the nuclear people, if you're talking about Enerhodar, it would be the Russians because they're the ones controlling the area, and so they can prod the bayonet at a worker and tell them to work, not work, or what to do. So that I hope that answers the question to the best of my abilities, and we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Sax2, who says, after Russia loses the war, should their country be broken up like Germany and the Austro-Hungarian Empire did after World War II?
Oh my god. You just brought back nightmares of the proposed occupation zones that we had for the Germans at the end of World War II and what we were going to do with them. Oh god. Some of them were so freaking scary. It was crazy. But moving into Russia, I don't think we could break them up any further. They're so culturally similar. Like St. Petersburg, Nizhny Novgorod, Moscow, and Vladivostok really have nothing different amongst them. They're almost the same culturally. And so there's really no way to break them up unless if you were to take, oh, that would be smart. If you were to take the Siberian oil fields and create them into their own autonomous country, now that would be very smart because that would actually neuter the entire Russian economy, considering that around 50% or more of their exports and their economic power comes from the oil and natural gas alone. And so if you were to just take the Siberian regions and form them into their own independent countries separate from the Russian Federation, that would sever Russia's economic power so badly they would never probably recover. That would kind of be like the United States, well, the Allies making the Rhineland an independent country at the end of World War II, which was one of our plans, and that's one of the nightmares I had, because imagine how different the world would look if the Ruhr Valley was its own independent country. Germany would not be Germany. But with that, we're on to the next one. I hope that answers the question fairly well.
All right, and up next, I want to recognize a $50 donation from Susan G., who puts in that $50 toward the fundraiser. So thank you very much for that.
David Tachuk! Oh man, how close did that get us?
Let's see. Let me go over to my other tab. Looks like we're at
300.
19,000 still.
We are $300 away, and Matthew is coughing like he's got tuberculosis.
I try to mute it, but sometimes I can't catch it.
It's fine. But thank you so much, David, and also Paula and Bobo for y'all support. In total, that's around $240 worth of support. And so I think we are now only $270 away from $20,000. And remember, if you want Matthew, cough, Matthew, cough. If you want Matthew to stop suffering over there, let's reach 20K so that way he can get off for the night. So with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Robert Scott, who says, how many Russians are POWs?
We don't know. We actually don't have a number on POWs right now from the Ukrainians, but I would assume it's at least in the thousands at this point, but I have no information to back that off of. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And I'm looking through the live chat for another question because I've run out in the spreadsheet. I don't see one. Folks, put in a question, and yours will be the first one to get read off if you put it in here. Let's see here. Looking for one right now.
Everyone have sympathy for Matthew. Get us to 20K so he can get some sleep.
Compound
Compound David.
Texas said, pulling out the sympathy card with the coughing. I wish I was. I wish it was as simple as that. Matt need a coffee. No, Matt does not need a coffee. Matt had to take that in, what's it called? Dayquil? It's not NyQuil because that's the sleepy one. I think I took a Dayquil earlier. It's got me feeling a little funny. Let's see here. Somebody said, stop Matt's suffering and save the children.
Yes, Matt, let's stop
see.
his suffering. $252 left. Is that serious? It is. $250 left.
Fallen Ray said, are you reading this question? And yes, I am. But it was a question, actually. So, yeah, I am reading it. Also, Magic Sky Girl said, does Enforcer play bagpipes? Well, yeah, I would say so. He plays pretty well. I can't play him at all. So, simply being able to play them whatsoever is good in my book.
I was actually
also, Steve I for putting in a $50 Canadian. Thank you very much for that.
Wait, we just reached it. Did we? How? We reached $20,000. My voice is about to explode, but we've done
Watch this, folks. Here's a yeehaw for the books. I'm going to try to hold it as long as I can. Dang it, it cut out. I saw the mic go off.
I heard you over there in your room, but you weren't on the mic. And so with that, I hate to say it, I can't keep my enthusiasm in my voice anymore because it's hurting really badly at this point because I've been so hyped tonight. But we have reached $20,000 on this fundraiser. This is the largest fundraiser we've run over the past 2 months, I believe. And it's all thanks to every single one of y'all who has helped us to get to this point. I thank you all so much once again for being on the stream tonight at such a significant moment in our channel, showing that we still have the steam, the fire, and the willpower the Lee Spring Army had within its opening days of the war. I thank you all so much once again for watching. I hope you all have enjoyed the question segment. I hope you all have enjoyed the news for tonight. And I have enjoyed all of y'all so much. All of the interesting little quirks and things that y'all bring to this live chat. The funds that we're able to raise for the Ukrainians. And the fun times that we all have covering this war. I thank you all so much once again for the support. And I will see you all on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and hopefully we will see the support make it to save the children incredibly soon, and more children will be saved in this war. Thank you all so much once again. It has been an absolute pleasure. It's been an impressive night, and I'm absolutely blown away right now and incredibly humbled by every single one of y'all. Thank you all so much once again. Take care, have a great night, and I'll see y'all Tuesday.
Slava Ukraine!
Not